Outer
the
space?
the first
We
picture
never. I
of
don't
the
even
Earth
think that we've
wasn't
been
the
out of
first
space.
the first picture of the Earth wasn't digital. It was taken on like standard film strip. Like the negative still exists in a museum.
What is the film strip showing?
I'll show you.
A sphere Earth?
Yep.
I would like to see that.
Let's see where they have it housed. The pale blue dot is what they refer to the picture. And the photo negative is, where is it resting currently? Let's see. Let me ask Google, where is the blue dot photo negative? I don't know. Google's not giving me an answer. I might have to ask Planet Peterson because I think he was the one that I had this discussion with. I apologize though, but it was taken
Uh,
on like a traditional camera, not not the
you're
type that you
positive
and
about that? That's a fact.
not the type that you and I get to use. Like it was a much more expensive edition.
Yeah,
But anyways, the
right.
fact of the matter is, I mean, I worked with a lot of electronics that require the Earth to actually be round. So, for example, like satellites would never work. The way that we do GPS long range positioning, um, the
Right.
satellites have to be orbiting a globe Earth.
Satellites, like how high up do they have to be? Because I don't think they're actually in space. They're hovering in the atmosphere of Earth.
They have to be
Or
pretty
am I wrong?
high. No, I mean they're not hovering. No, they're circulating. Also, the photo I was thinking of is called the blue marble, not the blue dot. And the blue marble negative is at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. Thank you, chat, for that one. I appreciate the correction there.
The
Yeah,
blue
so
marble.
yeah,
I'm
the
looking
blue
it up
marble
now.
photo was taken on standard like photo film. Also, Mark Bauman, thank
So
you
do
so
you
much.
believe that we actually went to the moon?
Yeah, I do. Like we've got I think 11 different reflectors left on the moon from like 6 different countries.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Various universities use them for different purposes. Um, so, and you can do a
Right.
laser distance to the moon. You can measure how
Now,
far the moon is using a powerful laser.
okay, I believe that.
Yeah.
That makes
Now,
sense. I just
uh,
feel like there's a lot of things that we have been taught that were false that are not true, and that confuses a lot of people from actually learning the truth.
well, maybe. Well, let's talk a little bit more
So the truth
about the
could really be
Bible.
anything.
So, I mean, one reason why I
Okay,
don't trust the
what do you want
Bible
to
is
know?
because I know that there's just round. Another reason is because it says things that are
Multiple
blatantly
translations.
it says things that are blatantly contradictory. So, like, I would expect if I was reading the Bible that it didn't just straight up contradict itself in a bunch of different places. Would Is that a reasonable expectation?
Um, I understand why you say that, and I used to feel the same way until I actually read it carefully. That's why I say on the surface it can seem contradictory, it can seem
They always assume I've never read it. I don't know why they
metaphysical
do that.
or fantastical, but I do feel like when you go back and read the Bible, you gain an understanding of how God works, and God never changes. We change, humans change, you know what I'm saying, because we've been imperfected
Actually,
by
that's a really good
Adam.
thing. That's a really good point that you brought up. The point, where the Bible says that God doesn't change. You know where that comes from?
Where?
There's a verse in Numbers 23:19 and another one in First Samuel. In fact, I'll grab them for you if you give me just a second.
Right, right. Can the chat see my camera?
Yeah, they can see you. Although your connection's kind of it cutting in and out. So in Numbers 23:19, it says, God is not a human being that he should lie, or mortal that he should change his mind. Has he promised and will he not do it? Has he spoken and will he not fulfill it? So the parallel to that is in 1 Samuel 15, where he says, I regret, or sorry, not, there we go. 15:29. Moreover, the glory of Israel, this is Yahweh obviously, will not deceive or change his mind, for he is not immortal that he should change his mind. So we wouldn't expect God to find God changing his mind throughout the Bible, right? Uh oh. I think the guest Wi-Fi changed its mind. It's having trouble staying connected. It's having some big it's having some big trouble staying connected. All right, King, you got 3 bars again.
Yeah.
All right, come back, King. If you can still hear my voice, it disconnected you. If you can still hear my voice, connect to Wi-Fi and come back because I'd love to finish the conversation we were having. But until you get Wi-Fi, I'm going to have to move on to the next guest. We've got Ben waiting to get in. And also Mark Bauman, thank you for the $150 over Venmo. Big W, Mark Bauman. I really appreciate the continued support. Let's get some W's in the chat for Mark. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. I greatly appreciate that, Mark. And we've got a couple super chats to grab real quick as well. LA Silver Surfer, thank you so much, LA Silver Surfer, for the $9.89 super thanks. Big W. And welcome to the Kraken Crew Elite. My game melts fast. Thank you for joining. And Big W, Gordo, thank you so much for the $5 super thanks. And we got Space Lord in the house tonight. Good to see you, Space Lord. Says, sweet tiny pebble Doug, make a joyful sound. You know, we're going to rock it for Doug, guys. We're going to rock it for Doug. And Ray, thank you so much for the 666 super chat. Says, would love to see you debate Jeff Durbin, Deconstruction Zone versus Apologia Studios SmackDown. Actually, I don't know who Jeff Durbin is. There's a lot of like apologists on the apologist circuit, and I really don't know who any of them are. I stopped following the apologist nonsense a long time ago. Like even when I was a young Christian, when I realized they didn't have anything to offer. So I have no idea who Durbin is, but all the best to him. Hopefully, if he has something to offer, we can get him in the stream sometimes. And Johannes Brom, thank you for the $5 super chat, says, you can't prove God without faith. The definition of faith is lack of proof, but there's proof. I don't think Choa has thought this through. No, he's nice enough, but I don't know if he's used many of these talking points before. But W for being nice at least. And Jam and Jay, welcome to the stream tonight. Says in Genesis 3:22, is God scared humans will usurp him? Yep, 100%. And this is common in the ancient Babylonian texts. That's why later on in chapter 9, when they have chapter 11, when they have the tower, they have to wreck the tower. Because it says there's nothing that they can't do. And if you read like the book of Jasher and some other texts, it's pretty clear that the goal was to storm the heavens, to go up and dethrone God. So yeah, I mean, you nailed it in Genesis 3:22. God is afraid that humans they're going to cause some trouble, and they do in other Babylonian myths. And Johanna Vanderclay, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate that. Says, forget all this worshiping a male deity. Oh, let me change the text size real quick so we can read it. Oh, maybe. Oh, well, the CRC is going to cover it. It says, just cherish Mother Earth. The world would be a much better place if humans had never veered away from the respect that early societies afforded the spinning rock. Hail Doug, we live on. Actually, you're not wrong. I agree with you there. I think like the modern form of Christianity is kind of like to hell with the earth. And that's why we see so many Republicans that are just like completely willing to watch the world burn. You know what I mean? It's crazy to me that they would do such a thing. it's insanity to me. I agree. We should be taking care of the earth. Praise Doug, and thank you for the super chat. And also, Johanna, again, thank you for the super chat. It says nobody needs a God. All you need is a positive attitude. And if you need faith, have it in yourself. Actually, I really love that. That's a really good comment. Not enough people believe in themselves. Not enough. We need to normalize people actually believing and supporting themselves. You know what I mean? And I think actually we Cho was able to get a connection and come back. I see he's got 3 green bars in the place of his 3 red bars. So I'm going to bring in the guest after the super chat and we'll keep the conversation going. It says, the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and then all the tribes of earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory, like a thief in the night. Yeah, I mean, you're quoting from Matthew chapter 24. I think also in Mark chapter 13, a similar quote. But yeah, I mean, it's funny that Jesus says that the second coming is going to be like a thief in the night, and then he basically says that all people are going to see it. There's a little bit contradictory statements there. There's there's a way around it if you're an apologist. There's always a way around it if you're an apologist. But yeah, it's funny that you point that out because a couple of people have noted that before, and it's a really interesting problem in the text. All right, let's grab Cho. Put Cho back in the discussion. How you doing, bud? He came back and his audio is not working again. Yeah, for some reason he keeps not setting his Bluetooth headset when he comes in. Let's see if that works.
Hello?
Yep, we got you.
All right. How you doing, brother?
Good, good. Welcome back.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Okay, I should be good right here though.
I think we left off on Numbers 23:19, wherein God.
Right. I wasn't able to hear that last part.
I
So
thought that
you can
might be the
repeat what you
case.
said.
Right. Okay. So you're saying that God can't change his mind, and that comes from Numbers 23:19 and 1 Samuel 15:29. It says God is not a human being that he should lie, or a mortal that he should change his mind. Right. So I would expect,
Mhm.
based on this passage, that I wouldn't be able to go into the Bible and find a bunch of instances where God changed his mind.
That's a reasonable conclusion on that, but I mean, see, it's hard to explain. And I'm not an apologist because I heard you was talking about that stuff, and they do make good points, but I understand the viewpoint of thinking that you got to defend religion with BS and not real facts and stuff like that. So I'm trying to keep it general and trying to. I mean, I'm going to be talking about the Bible a lot, but I'm not going to be like trying to do any apologist stuff because I haven't studied that. I'm fairly new to Christianity, but I do have a strong faith, and I just want to try to share that. But yeah, God doesn't change. We change as a people over time, and I think that's what separates us from his original intention, because God's intention has been the same from Genesis to Revelation, and that's to live
Right.
in eternity with us,
But does he change his
right?
mind?
That's what the
Was
Bible
what we were
said.
talking about. Does God change his mind?
Um, I'm going to say no, because he
Okay.
always has the same intention. Now, he might do things differently, and I know what passage you're probably going to bring up, the famous passage of who was that? Abraham, I believe, or Moses. I think it was Moses when they was going to Sodom and Gomorrah, and God told Moses, basically, or no, this is Abraham and Lot. I'm sorry. So basically, Abraham and Lot went to do different places. Of course, Lot went to Sodom and Gomorrah. Abraham took the other side of the field. And when God condemned Sodom and Gomorrah for destruction, he told Abraham that, hey, I'm going to destroy, if I can't find 50 people worthy, I'm going to destroy the whole city. And of course, this is a famous passage with Abraham talking to God back and forth and asking him, "Oh, are you going to destroy a whole city for the lack of 50?
Hmm.
What if there's only 45
Hmm.
righteous? Are you going to destroy a whole city for 45?" And God says, "Well, no, da 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 da." And then the dialogue goes back and forth until eventually Abraham talks him down to only there being about 5 righteous worthy. If there are 5 righteous, then he will spare the whole city, right? So that's a great point that you're making about God changing his mind.
Well,
But I
I don't.
think those
I don't think he
passages, you
changed
got
his
to look
mind
at the
there.
context.
So I think you're trying to make
No,
the argument for me,
really?
but that wasn't my argument.
Okay, I mean, I'll let you speak. I just thought that's where you were going.
Nope. So the reason
What
why
instances are you talking about specifically?
well, I think the best instance comes from Exodus chapter 32, when he explicitly changes his mind about wiping out the rebellious Israelites. Says the Lord changed his mind about the disaster that he planned to bring on his people.
Hmm. And God, you know, does things differently all the time, depending on our, actions. People don't understand that we have free will. God doesn't take us away from that because He's a loving God. So He's always going to allow us to make our own choice. He's not going to force us to do anything. He's not going to force us to believe in Him. The fact that He created us, it doesn't matter if you believe it, if I believe it, He's still going to be God, right? So it doesn't matter if we believe in Him to. He don't need us to believe in Him to exist. So
Right, but
He can change whatever He wants and He can do whatever He wants,
right, but you remember why
in,
we were
in
talking
any
about this
instance.
topic?
But you say He doesn't change His mind.
Right.
I'm trying to get around to that. I know I'm going like a little far, but I'm trying to like curve it back towards that. So,
Mm-hmm.
God being all powerful, right? He has, you know, definitely He has full control over everything in creation. So He can make events happen the way He wants them to happen. But if certain things,
Right, but does he change his
take place
mind?
before change His mind, I mean,
Actually,
yeah,
I
He
think
changes
there's
His mind all the time.
well, if that's the case, there are a couple instances where he changes his mind. So, but that would mean then
And I'll tell you the
that
number one reason, because if he changes his mind all the time, because a sinner can be forgiven for his past deeds if he turns away and repents. That's him changing his mind because that person was condemned to death, right? That's him changing his mind on that person's
oh,
condemnation. That doesn't mean that means everybody, no one is condemned to hell because of whatever you do, as long as you don't openly blaspheme and knowingly blaspheme God's name to his face, then you can be forgiven. And I
cool.
mean, like, after you believe and like you know for a certain that He's real, y'all all have a chance to be forgiven, because if you even if you don't believe, you don't understand, that's fine. You just have to try to understand. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Okay. So then,
But go
if
ahead.
God does change his mind, why does 1 Samuel 15:29 say that the glory of Israel will not deceive or change his mind, for he is not immortal that he should change his mind?
I mean, I ain't gonna lie to you. I can't really give you a good answer for that.
That's a tough one, right? It's
But
just a,
I
a
do know
straight
that God
contradiction.
doesn't change, right? But I can tell you, I don't think it's contradictory in the way you're trying to make it. I think it's just, like I say, you got to have a good understanding of what they are trying to say.
I
God
do.
doesn't change. So that basically just means that He's always good. He's always
I
loving. He's
did
always,
not say that
He's
God
all things
changed.
good.
I didn't say that God changed. There's a difference between
You said that you don't
changing
change His
and
mind.
changing your mind. Changing your mind just means that you meant to do one thing, or you thought something about one thing and then you thought differently later. That's all that
Right,
means. Now the passage says that
right.
God doesn't change his mind, and then it says elsewhere that he does change his mind, which means it's just a straight up contradiction. Now that doesn't mean that
All right.
Christianity
Well, can
isn't
you read me that?
true. You want to read it again?
What,
Yeah.
what?
It says
Yeah, can you just read the Second Samuel?
yeah, the glory of Israel will not deceive or change his mind, for he is not immortal that he should change his mind. And logically
Okay.
speaking, the reason why verses like this exist is because if you believe in a God that is all knowing, then technically speaking, an all
Hmm.
knowing God cannot change his mind because he knows the future.
I mean, that's trying to put God in the box. And
I
that's what
didn't
a
put
lot
him
of
in that
people try to
box.
do.
The Bible put him in that box.
Nah, but I mean, because if you understand God, which we can never fully fathom God, but we can't understand Him enough to get the gist of, His character and characteristics. So just like I said before, like how a sinner can be forgiven for his sin and can save himself from condemnation, God can change His mind about that person because God made up His mind about that person when they did sin, the moment that he sinned. But He also put Jesus down here to die for our sins. And if we believe in that and we turn from our sin and we really try to, do the right thing, God will change his mind on our condemnation. So that's
Okay. So God's not all
kind of
knowing
goes
in your
hand in hand with
worldview?
what you're saying. He said, not all knowing, he is all knowing.
Well,
He just doesn't force us to
you can't change your mind if you're all
conform. He
knowing.
knows everything. Mm, I understand what you're saying. And you're right, actually. But I don't know why they say that. I never even looked at that verse in the Bible, to be
It's
honest
just
with you. I probably read it before, but I never
Mhm.
held on to it, you know?
Yeah, it's just a plot hole in the book. It's not a big deal. But I think there are some bigger fish to fry with the book. Like, for
Right,
example, you brought up Genesis chapter 18, where Abraham basically tries to talk Yahweh out of, destroying all of the wicked in Sodom. And
right.
the general idea is that, like, hey, like, God wouldn't wipe out the righteous alongside of the wicked, right? That seems like that'd be a terrible thing to do, right? Um, but
Of
I don't
course.
I don't think that that's a problem for God. I think that's a problem for Abraham, because, like, God does it all the time. Want to read a passage with me and see about that?
Yeah, please. Well, passage you talking about?
Yeah. So in Second Samuel
Yeah.
24,
You
it
talking about
also
wiping out the righteous, the wicked?
just wiping people out indiscriminately, right? And we could also point
Oh,
to
man.
the Egyptian babies that were killed. God wiped out a bunch of Egyptian babies. They're just they didn't do anything wrong. So I mean, obviously he wipes out the
Wiped out
righteous,
a bunch of who? Are you cutting out a little bit? All right.
The Egyptian babies. Yeah. So in
Oh, you
the
talking about the firstborn of the Egyptian house
yeah, so in the 10th plague, God wiped out the firstborn
in
of all
Exodus?
of Egypt. Yep, Exodus, chapters like 10 through 12, 10 through
Absolutely.
13. So a number of those firstborn would have been children, which means,
Right.
like, do you think that children, like even like newborn babies, are guilty of something?
Definitely not.
Right.
But
Okay. So then
that
I
has to
think
do
Abraham
with
misjudged God
the
then.
parents. No, definitely not. I could understand why you would say that, but God he gave warnings to everybody, and he told, you know, basically like Moses and Aaron to tell all the people in Egypt, if you believe my God is going to do this, you know what I'm saying? Well, he told them that God is going to do it. Like, it don't matter. Like I said earlier, it doesn't matter if you believe God or not. God don't need us to believe in him to exist. He already exists on his own. He's Omega and all knowing. Moses to tell, or he, you know what I'm saying? He gave a warning out some way to let the people know that this was coming, and he gave them a way out. He gave the righteous, the truly righteous that believed in him, a way to protect themselves, their loved ones from that. And all they had to do was sacrifice a, a goat or a ram or whatever they do back then, and put the blood on the doorpost so that the angel of death would know
Well,
not to go into that house.
they didn't have that instruction. That was only for the Hebrews.
No, they did. Everyone had that instruction.
Oh no, that's
The
not true at
ones that
all.
didn't follow that instruction,
That's not in the book.
what's not in the book? That he didn't give them instruction?
Yep, there's no instruction whatsoever, where Moses told the Egyptians to paint blood over their doorpost.
What? Are
It's
you
not
sure
in
we're
there.
reading the same account?
Yep.
Let me read. And what chapter you said it was? I'm
Um,
sorry, I told you I'm new.
Exodus 10 through 13 should have the account.
Reading about 10 through 13.
So the last plague is at the end of chapter 10, and then the beginning
Right,
of the next plague is Exodus 11:1.
right, 11:1, which says, in my, New King James Version, it reads, and the Lord said to Moses, I will bring one more plague on Pharaoh, Egypt, afterward he will let you go from here. And he let you go, you shall die. Verse 2, speak now in the hearing of the people. Speak now in the hearing of the people. That's funny. It's right in the second verse. This is God talking to Moses.
Mm-hmm.
Speak now in the hearing of the people,
Mm-hmm.
and let every man ask from his neighbor and every woman from her neighbor articles of silver and
Yep.
of gold.
And who are the
What the
people?
hell? Mhm.
It's the elders of Israel.
You talking about the people that's with Moses,
Yeah.
not the captives that's Pharaoh is holding.
Well, I mean, theoretically, according to the story, the Israelites are captives. Although I think that that's kind of a very loose way to describe their state of being.
Uh,
But
I
so the
mean, they were.
so the warning was for the Israelites to paint the blood over their doorpost, not to the Egyptians.
It says in the hearing of the people, God said, "Let
Hmm.
every man ask from his neighbor and every woman from her neighbor." So that would entitle that everyone knew.
No, only the Hebrews, because if you keep reading in the story, they ask these things from their Egyptian neighbors, and then their Egyptian neighbors end up giving it to them when they leave. So he's instructing the Hebrews to ask for things from their Egyptian neighbors, because he says that I will predispose the Egyptians to be favorable to you.
Yeah, I'm reading
That's
still.
why in verse 8 it says, Then all of these officials of yours shall come down to me and bow low to me, saying, Leave us. Oh, sorry, I went too far. 1 second. There we go. Verse 4. Moses said, Thus saith the Lord, About midnight I will go throughout Egypt. Every firstborn of the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sits on the throne, to the firstborn of the female slave who is behind the handmill, to the firstborn of the livestock. Then there will be a loud cry throughout the whole land of Egypt, such as has never or will ever be again, but not a dog shall growl of any of the Israelites, not at the people, at the animals, so that you may know that the Lord makes a distinction between Israel and Egypt. Then all the officials of yours, so he's giving this part to the Pharaoh, then all the officials of yours shall come down to me, bowing low, saying, Leave us. So this verse 4, he's 4 through 8, he's talking to Pharaoh. Actually, he's not even talking to Pharaoh. He's getting instructions on what to say to Pharaoh.
Yeah, no, I actually
Uh,
see what you're talking about. It's in chapter 12, verse 3. God's
yeah,
telling Moses, "Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying," and he's talking about the Passover, basically saying that what I just said, to let
right.
the people know that the destruction is coming to the firstborn of every house.
But let's
So
let's
you're right.
imagine let's imagine though for a second, even if God warned all the Egyptians. Well, I still don't think that warrants killing babies.
No, it doesn't. I don't know. I mean, I'm not God, so I can't say. I know what I believe is right or wrong, and I know we all feel that is wrong. Of course, who wouldn't, right?
Sure.
Because we human and we have compassion naturally. And
Mhm.
I
I
just
agree.
know that not all of them. I don't even know if babies were killed. I'm pretty sure that I don't know, but I just know that that's what God said had to happen for the signs to prove that, what I'm saying, these families and stuff. And that's, I think it goes deeper. We were in that time, but I do know that the people were very rebellious against God, like in these, Babylons and Egypts, like a lot of people weren't, praising God and stuff like that. So it really falls to the parents that weren't believing, at that time. That's why they ended up getting punished because they chose not to believe in the true God. But I
I
mean, I understand it still sounds harsh though. I'm not saying that it's not. I definitely sympathize with what you're saying, but I
right.
can't. I'll be honest. I don't have a clear, you know, um, like rebuttal for that. Like I'm not trying to defend the God no matter what. Like I'm trying to learn as much as you, but I
Right.
still have faith that the Bible is true though.
Yeah, I think we're all learning. If I was going to be quite honest, I know it it you know it feels like sometimes like at some point you'll be able to stop learning, but the reality is you never get to stop learning. So let's
Nah,
read a passage with me real quick if you don't mind. This is in Second
of
Samuel
course.
chapter 12. And we're going to go down to verse 11. In Second Samuel 12, David is going to be punished for what he did with Bathsheba. So You
Second
probably remember
Samuel
the story
12.
of David and Bathsheba, right?
Of course, yeah. And
Okay.
that was crazy. But that's why
Yeah.
David got he did get punished for that. He
Well,
definitely
there's
did.
right. There's two punishments, and one falls on the son of David. Right, the son of David is made sick for
Right.
7 days, and he dies. Now, the second
And he died
punishment
there.
I think is the more egregious punishment, and I think a lot of people don't remember it. But God pronounces, He says, "Thus saith the Lord, I will raise up trouble against you from within your own house, and I will take your wives before your eyes and give them to your neighbor, and he will lie with your wives in broad daylight. For you did it secretly, but I will do this thing before all Israel in broad daylight." So the punishment that He's saying He's going to send down is that 10 of David's wives are going to get non consensually ravished.
Mm. In public.
Yeah, publicly. Yeah, it's going to be a shameful event.
Where is that at? You said it was in 2 Samuel 12, what verse?
Yeah, 2 Samuel 12:11.
Okay. Thus saith the Lord, behold, I will raise up adversity against you from your own house, and I will take your wives before your eyes and give them to your neighbor, and he shall lie with your wives in the sight of this son. For you did it secretly, but I will do this thing before all Israel, before the sun. Yeah. So what's your question about that? You saying that's not right either?
Well, what I'm saying is like we have this idea of God that we've created in our head, like He's all loving and He's kind and whatnot. But really, like when I read the book, I see like a vengeful, bloodthirsty maniac.
Understood. And I get that plenty. And there's plenty. The Old Testament is definitely full of it. You know, the New Testament is mostly full of humans being that way towards each other, but the Old Testament definitely has a plenty of examples of God dishing out very harsh judgments and you know very cruel punishment, like you say. So I think I think we also have to look at the context of everything too. You got to keep it all logical. If you are believing, like you just for what I'm saying, the sake of the argument, if we all believe that the Bible is real, what it's saying is real, then I think we have to also keep in mind the context, right? That God was actually in this time, He was speaking to us, like no doubt about it. Like He was actually talking to people. People could actually see Him moving and working in the world at this time. And that really warrants, like, why are you still choosing to disobey or disbelieve me when I'm showing myself, I'm revealing myself to you, and you still choose to go against and disobey? That's really why I feel like these punishments He has, because God, I can't tell God that He wrong. You know what I'm saying? Me personally, who am I? I didn't create myself. God created me, and however He created me to be, whatever He told me to be, that's what I'm supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? I
Sure.
might not even understand my purpose for what He created me to do yet, but one day, hopefully, I will, and I'll be able to fulfill it. But right now, I just know that I have to follow the book and understand that He is going to always be right because He knows more than me. You know what I'm saying? I don't know more than the all knowing God.
Let me ask you a question. Do you know anything about Islam?
Not much. I ain't gonna lie.
So in Islam, they're generally okay with child marriage because the Prophet married Aisha when she was 6 and consummated the marriage at age 9. And that's why child
Wow.
marriage is so common in Islam. Would you say that that's wrong?
Of course,
Why?
because I mean, a child is a child. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter.
Right, but what's wrong
Just like
about
the
it?
same way. I mean, is it consensual?
I mean,
I don't even think it can be.
they do believe in arranged marriage. They do also believe in consensual marriage.
Yeah,
But like,
arranged
so
and consensual are
what?
different from child marriage. You said child marriage.
Right, but what did you use to come to the conclusion that it's not good to marry a child?
I mean, I guess feeling, honestly.
Right, yeah, you used
But
your own subjective thinking capability and you came to the conclusion that it wasn't a good thing. I'm suggesting
right.
like the same rational thought that you're applying to the God of Islam, I think you should apply the
Mhm.
same thing to the God of the Bible. I don't think that you should give the God of the Bible a pass.
Um, I understand what you're saying. I will take that into consideration, but I already tested my God, and I feel like He came through for me, like showing me His power. Because I literally like it was a situation where somebody did something to me, and I wanted to react in a normal way with violence, right? And I was reading the Bible heavy at this time. This was when I was in prison, and I was like, God, I want to do things differently. You say not to use violence. You say not to do these things, right? And I thought that was wrong. I'm like, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, like you said in the Old Testament, right? So like, why did you change that? Or why did you stray away from that? But that wasn't God's, saying commandment. He did that for, saying other reasons, but basically telling us when Jesus came and changed us, he made, saying he could perfect us with the Holy Spirit now. So I was like, God, I'm asking you to handle this situation and see how you can, saying if you don't come and intervene in some type of way, shape, form, or fashion, then it's over with. Like I'm never going to be able to trust you. You know what I'm saying? So I tested God this way, and honestly, you might think it was coincidence and stuff like that, but honestly, I don't believe in coincidences anymore because that same week the whatever the thing that the dude stole from me, he ended up getting caught with and he got punished. He got sent out to the hole and got ended up getting shipped to a whole nother prison, right? And I actually ended up going to a TC and staying at a TC. So
Sure.
it's like
So then how
when
come
that
God doesn't
happened,
heal
I was like,
all like the babies with bone cancer where like their mothers like desperately praying day and night for their child to survive?
I mean, God doesn't answer every prayer, brother. Not the
Right.
way that we expect him to.
But my suggestion is he doesn't answer 99% of prayers. Like the ones that he does answer seem like super coincidental, like they could just be not answered prayer. And the ones that like you think he really would want to answer, like ending child suffering from a needless disease that theoretically he caused, he's like completely silent. Like the only miracles God ever does are things that could just be marked off as coincidence.
I mean, you'll never be able to, take the Bible's word for anything if you're not willing to believe it or try it. And I'm not judging you for that.
But
It's
I
not
was a
my place to
Christian for
judge you
20
for that.
years.
Yeah. What made you fall away?
The
Or
Bible.
just like not believe it anymore? The
Well,
Bible?
it just turned out the Bible wasn't true. Like it says a bunch of stuff that's not true. It gets history wrong. Jesus, and I think the biggest problem is that Jesus didn't fulfill even one messianic prophecy. And if Jesus didn't fulfill the messianic prophecies, that means he's not the Messiah, which means you can throw that whole New Testament right out the window.
How did he fulfill the prophecy?
Well, let me ask you a question. What prophecy do you think he did fulfill?
Fulfilled all of them.
Can you name one?
Rode into the town. Yeah. He bore our stripes for our sins.
Well, that's not a prophecy about the Messiah at all, actually. You started
No?
reciting Matthew 21 about coming into town on a donkey. Is that where you're going?
I mean, yeah, because I mean it said that he was riding to Israel on a donkey. That's a prophecy, as small and insignificant as it is. But I mean, the smaller ones were fulfilled in full too. I
Well,
don't understand why you say that.
I don't think it was because that quotation from Zechariah 9 doesn't say that there's just going to be a guy riding a donkey. It says he's going to do stuff too, right? It says rejoice greatly, O daughter Zion. Shout aloud, O daughter Jerusalem. See, your king comes to you. Triumphant and victorious is he, humble and riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey. He will cut off the chariot from Ephraim and the war horse from Jerusalem, and the battle bow shall be cut off, and he shall command peace to the nations. So this is like an
Yeah,
actual like victorious king who like defeats Israel's
that's
enemies.
that's talking about his coming back.
Oh, well then he didn't fulfill it then.
Yeah, he's already fulfilled the first part of the prophecy. Now it's like
By
he
riding the
has to let the
donkey?
world fulfill its prophecy. That's just one.
Well shit,
That's just telling
I, I rode a
the
donkey. Am I the
form.
Messiah?
That's just one. There are millions of prophecies. If you really
Well,
want to look into the
well,
prophecies that
that's what I'm
Jesus
saying.
fulfilled, there
There's only about 23 of them listed in the Gospels, and he didn't fulfill a single one.
you saying there's only 23 prophecies that Jesus was supposed to fulfill?
Yeah, according to the gospel authors, Matthew's got like
Mm,
20, and John, actually, it might be closer to like 29. John's got about 6 or 7 of them, and then Matthew's got like nearly 20 of them, and he just didn't fulfill any of them. And I know that might sound crazy to you, but let me give you an example of something. I want you to turn to Hosea chapter 11. Do you have your Bible?
yeah, I have
Yeah. Go to
Hosea
Hosea
chapter 11.
chapter 11, yeah.
All right.
And then it says, when Israel was a child, I loved him, and out of Egypt I called my son. The more I called them, the more they went from me, and they kept sacrificing to the Baals and offering incense to idols. What moment in history do you think that could be referring to?
Said it has to be, BC, before Christ,
Right, right.
when
It,
Israel was a child.
does this sound like something you've heard about before when God called people out of Egypt?
Yeah, Moses,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's about the
Exodus.
Exodus, right? Because in Exodus
Hmm.
4:22, he says that Israel is my firstborn son, and he's going to deliver them from Egypt. That's why in
Hmm.
Hosea it says, "When Israel was a child, I loved him, and out of Egypt I called my son." So now this is about something happening in the past, right?
Talking about this specific passage?
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
because
interesting.
Jesus came out of Egypt as well. You remember when
I
Mary
didn't.
was pregnant
Well,
and they had
I
to go
I
to
know.
Jerusalem?
It's Matthew chapter 2, verses 14 through 16. I'm aware. But try to stay focused on Hosea. Hosea doesn't mention anything about the future, does he?
I'm not familiar with Hosea, to be honest with you. I'm not gonna lie,
Right. Well, we're reading
but
Hosea
I don't.
11, and he says, "When Israel
Right?
was a child, I loved him." That's in the past.
I mean, he's speaking past tense, but there's a lot of prophetic
Oh,
language in the
I
Bible, of
disagree.
course.
It's not prophetic at all. It's history.
Ah,
He's telling about the past events. He says, "When Israel was a child, I loved him, and out of Egypt I called my son. And the more that I called them, the more they went from me. They kept sacrificing to the Baals and offering incense to idols." That's what happened after the Exodus. They immediately made a golden calf.
yeah,
So this is not a prophecy. This is a retelling of the Exodus.
it can't be both.
No.
Why?
Why would it be both? Just because you want it to be?
No, because that's what it's talking about.
Let's talk about the
It's
Exodus.
the Exodus, yes, had happened, and that's what he's talking about. But it
Yeah.
also that can refer to Jesus as well,
Why? Why would anyone think that?
because he had to flee. Joseph and Mary had to flee from Pharaoh
Yeah,
again out of Egypt
but
because he called.
Hosea didn't say anything about the Messiah having to flee and go to Egypt at all.
He said it right there.
No, he didn't.
Well, not really.
He's talking about stuff happening in the past.
Right. But I didn't say, well, you saying this was supposed to be a prophecy and it
What
wasn't?
what I'm saying is that it's simply not a prophecy, and that Matthew is making stuff up. He knows that he has to justify Jesus being the Jewish Messiah. So he's going back into the Hebrew scriptures and just finding anything that he can say sounds like Jesus. This is not even a prophecy. This is just a retelling of the Exodus, but it sounds like something Jesus did. So he just says, "Oh, it's actually a secret prophecy." But like that's garbage. I could do that for myself. I can go into the Old Testament and find lots of stuff that sounds like something in my life and say, "Oh, it's actually a prophecy about me." Prophecy has to have like a clear like pattern of speech. It has to predict something in the future that's going to happen. Like Deuteronomy 18 tells you, you know if a prophet is speaking presumptuously if the thing that they
Hmm.
tell you doesn't come true, which means it has to actually be a clear piece of information for the future that's testable. You can't just talk about something that happened in the past and then hope that somebody like thinks that you're doing a double entendre. That doesn't make sense.
I mean, I get you what you're saying, but I mean, if it when it really did happen, right? Can I
But
really be saying that it's not a prophecy? Because
but
I
it's
mean,
not a
if
prophecy.
they wrote this before, if they wrote this before Jesus was born,
Hmm.
and Jesus ended up that actually been able to be applied to Jesus
It can't.
before he was
It's about
born,
the past though. It doesn't. There's not one word
it
in
might
those two
be.
verses about the future.
Yeah, you're right.
So why would anyone reading this, like, why would a good Jew in the first century reading this, look at that passage and think that it's prophetic?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you that. I didn't know that was supposed to be a prophetic portion of scripture. Honestly,
Right. And now the problem I have is all of the prophecies in the Gospels about Jesus read just like this. They're going back to texts, most of them aren't even prophecies, and they're just calling it a prophecy when it's not. Sometimes they do go to actual prophecies, but the prophecy is about something completely different. So, for example, it's quoted in Matthew chapter 2, verse 18, when Herod has the babies killed in and around Bethlehem, age 2 and below, that this was to fulfill what was written by the prophet Jeremiah. But when you go to Jeremiah 31, yeah, Jeremiah 31, 15, and 16, where that quote comes from, Jeremiah is not talking about anything happening at the time of the Messiah. He's talking about the Israelites coming back from Babylonian captivity.
you said that's Jeremiah 31. What?
Yeah, go to Jeremiah 31, 15, and 16. So the quotation
31,
starts
16.
in 15.
Yeah.
And it says, Thus saith the Lord, a voice is heard in Ramah, lamentation and bitter weeping. Rachel is weeping for her children. She refuses to be comforted for her children because they are no more. Thus saith the Lord, Keep your voice from weeping and your eyes from tears, for there is a reward for your work, says the Lord. They shall come back from the land of the enemy. There is hope for your future, says the Lord. Your children shall come back to their own country. So the prophecy is actually pretty clear. It's just a prophecy about how the Israelites are going to come back from captivity, which was already prophesied in chapter 25. Jeremiah says they'll come back after a 70-year exile.
Mm.
But Matthew needs to find something in the Old Testament to tie Jesus' life to. And he's like, oh, there's something about children being killed. Let's just say this is about what happened in Bethlehem. But this doesn't have nothing to do with Bethlehem.
Mm. I hear what you're saying. And I mean, I never really looked into that stuff like too deeply. I looked into certain, like, I read certain books on Jesus and his prophecies and stuff that they say he fulfilled and stuff like that. I believe he did fulfill and do all that stuff. But I mean, the Bible is like a book that, you know, it's hard to like prove or disprove, I feel like. Because a lot of these things have multiple different interpretations and meaning and stuff like that. And that's why I feel like a lot of people get confused. Like, you got to really study it to catch everything. But
Yeah,
nah,
I've
I
studied
definitely
it.
I like the points you're making. I like the points you're making, and I respect the fact that you were a Christian for 20 years, and I've taken that into account as well. And what did you say? You said the Bible threw you off from the religion, right? Or the
Yeah,
belief.
yeah. I mean, the Bible just says things that are clearly untrue, and at some point, you have to stop making excuses for it and just admit that the Bible's not true.
Uh, I don't believe that because I can't make any good arguments for the Bible, honestly. But I mean, I'll just end with this. I'll just say that the Bible, for me, I feel like if you know, you get out the Bible what you want. Like if you want to find the inconsistencies, if you want to find the little mistakes that you want to point out, you know what I'm saying, with you know, human logic and error and stuff like that. There's a lot of wrong with the Bible, yeah, because it goes against all natural logic and understanding that we have been groomed our whole life to, what I'm saying, believe and trust in. But what the Bible is telling you what to do is something completely opposite and different. And it's believe in a God that you can't see, can't, hear, or, have any actual proof of in this life. And just believe on faith that such a God exists. So I'll just say that no, I cannot prove that God exists. I don't think no one can except God. He has to reveal himself to you. So I'll just say that I pray that I'm saying, you and everyone that's watching, I feel like if you really want to find God and know who he is, just read, do your own research, or better yet, talk to God. You know what I'm saying? Through Jesus' name,
Why do you think I haven't?
just ask him. I'm not saying you haven't. I
Okay.
understand that you fell off. I'm not trying to like disrespect you or piss you off or nothing like that. I'm just saying like I understand that it can be confusing, and I understand that the
I
Bible
don't,
is a very
I don't think it is
difficult book.
though.
Like, trust me, it is. If you're talking about
I
the
don't.
God of the universe, it's going to have to be difficult to
I don't
understand
think that's
because
difficult.
that's an unfathomable concept that God created the whole universe. He has the knowledge to create all these things and put all these things in place.
But I don't
So
think
if
he
you
did
don't
any of
believe in
that.
God, then what do you? So what do you think we came from then? If
Well, I think the
God don't
universe.
exist,
I think the universe is eternal. All matter, space, and time is pre-existed forever.
so that the universe itself is your God, pretty much.
No, there's no God.
There's no God. So where did everything come from?
It didn't come from anywhere. It always existed. That's what that means.
It already existed. What's the proof of that?
The universe exists. Do you deny that the universe exists?
If the universe exists, then God must exist because
Nope.
the universal law, there's a physics law. There, we don't even have to go to the Bible for that. The third law of physics is what? Every action has an equal and opposite reaction, right?
No, that's not the third law of physics. No, that's
What is it?
that's
That's the third law of physics.
there's no such thing
That's
as
Isaac Newton's law.
that was a law from Isaac Newton. You got it, but there's no like laws of physics. I think you might be confusing the like one of the laws of thermodynamics. There's traditionally, four laws. People usually quote three of them, but there's traditionally four laws of thermodynamics, if I remember correctly. But that doesn't mean anything about the origin of the universe. Right? So we know for sure that the universe existed. What would be the evidence that the universe was that it didn't exist at one point?
That it didn't exist.
Yeah. Why would I think that?
So I guess you can't, right?
Right? Yeah. Listen,
The universe.
Cho, I had a good time talking to you. I think I need to move on to my next guest. Has been waiting for a while, but I mean, you've been very
Yeah,
kind
that's fine.
and polite, and I've enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, I learned a lot too, and I hope that you do find faith in God again. It's hard to understand, and I know that it can seem crazy, but I do think that believe that God is loving in all kind, and He wants you to accept that love and you know
Okay.
just
Well,
embrace it.
I'll pray to my God that you lose faith in your God, and then we'll be square. Okay.
Nah, I don't think that'll be square, but I mean, I pray for you too, brother.
All right. Have a good one. Well, he was fun. I kept him on for a while because he was being polite. You guys know how I roll around here. If you're being polite, I let you talk for quite a while. If you're being a prick, then things are going to get hairy pretty quick. All right, let me grab some super chats, friends, and then we'll keep the thing rolling here. Oh, Discordia, good to see you tonight. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. It says, great start, Justin. Navel gazer and a flat earther. Want to go for the trifecta with a pre-sup? Listen, you know there's going to be a pre-sup tonight. There's always a pre-sup. Pre-sups can't help themselves. They have to come in pre-sup. And Randy, thank you for the 10 gifting Deconstruction Zone memberships. I really appreciate that. Big W for Randy sending out a dime piece. And welcome to the Kraken crew, Shaun of the Dead. W for the name, by the way. And Lamachus, thank you so much for the 199. Says, do you consider Jesus a moral shift for God? Kind of. I would say so, but the thing of it was like a lot of what Jesus taught you can find in various sections of the Talmud. It wasn't like he invented it. He wasn't all that original. So, but yeah, I would say it's a bit of a shift. But even from the laws in Exodus to what we find in Deuteronomy, there's even a bit of a shift, over the couple hundred years. And Randy, again, big W for the $10 super chat. Thank you so much. It says, we'll buy you lamb fries one day. I would love some lamb fries, Randy. I really would. Thank you for that. And JM, thank you so much, Men to Get Fried, for the $100 super chat. Big, big W. Let's get some W's in the chat for JM. Thank you so much. It's, hi, Justin. 40K YouTube subs. Congrats. Cheers from Justin M. Well, thank you so much. I was hoping I'd cross over 40,000 this week, and we finally did it. We finally crossed over the 40,000 mark. And my new channel, DZ Debates, is going to be a debate only channel. I'm not going to have any educational content. It's just going to be debate clips. I already surpassed 4,000. I just started it like a couple weeks ago. We're going to be past 10,000 in a couple more weeks. Make sure you're following DZ Debates. I'm going to start posting most of my debate clips over there, and I'm going to try to post more educational content and interviews on my main channel. I wanted to separate the two a little bit because there's so many people who just want to watch debate clips. They don't want to watch live streams. They don't want to watch education. They just like the debate clips. So I spun it off into its own channel, nothing but debate clips. It's at DZ Debates. So go ahead and check that out. But JM, thank you so much for supporting the channel. You've been a huge, huge supporter all through, from 0 to 40,000. So thank you so much. And let's see, we got another one from Randy again. Holy shit, it says, I am sure the apostles ate lamb fries. It certainly is possible that the apostles had lamb fries, especially if Jesus was theoretically the lamb. I don't know how that works out. There's some questions that need to be answered now that I think about it. And Blessed Goku, thank you for the super chat. Says, everyone who says they were an atheist and then became a Christian after reading the Bible carefully is lying. Praise Doug. Yeah, I don't think he read it as well as he thought. But listen, if you find yourself in the clink and like you turn to religion to make yourself a better person, listen, I love that for you. But he's out of prison now. He's got to do some deep digging. And Fen, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. It says apologetics is a field of excuse invention. You nailed it. And apologists are professional excuse inventors whose only positive quality is the smell of fresh pretzels. Actually, I could not agree more. The goal of apologists is to say, well, it's possible. It's not impossible. And because it's possible, we have to assume that it's true. They never stop to ask themselves, well, what's the most likely explanation of the facts on the ground, But Ben, thank you for the $10 super chat. Says, curious as to why you haven't talked to Matt Dillahunty. I would love to see you guys do a show together. Well, I don't know, Ben. It just hasn't really happened. He's hosting on the line. I'm hosting on AXP, so we're hosting on different networks. I would love to be able to sit down and have a conversation with him. Eventually, I'm sure we will. But also remember, I'm the new guy here. Like, I literally just started debating like a year and a half ago. So, like, I'm the new kid on the block. I kind of have to take all my stripes. I have to work my way up the ladder. Like, I have to earn it. Like, Matt already did that. He spent 20 years earning his spot. I've got to do the same now. Now it's my turn to work my way up the ladder. But thank you so much for the super chat. And rock hard for Doug. Good to see you tonight. Big W says, when I came out to my parents, I told them I no longer Christian. I explained the logical reasons and evidence why. However, my mom said I just need to use my heart brain instead of my head brain. Oh no. Would they say that if you said, hey, I converted to Islam, and they were like, oh, don't do that, and you're like, well, you got to use your heart brain, not your head brain, they'd be mortified. It's crazy. Christianity is one of the only religions where they literally tell you to stop using your brain. Anytime a religion or an organization says don't think for yourself, run as far and fast as possible from that organization. And Sayla, thank you for the super chat, says, why can't they just admit when the Bible contradicts itself? I'd like to take them more seriously if they did. Or I'd take them more seriously if they did. Yeah, I agree with you. It's weird to me that they can't look at a contradiction and just say like, "Oh shit, it's a contradiction," because that's the honest thing. That's what you're supposed to do. And 80%, thank you for the $5 super chat, says, why do Christians claim 300 plus fulfilled JC prophecies when they can only name 10 max when asked? Seriously, they only ever name like 3 or 4. Well, the reality is, the reason why this happens is because if you believe Jesus fulfilled that many prophecies, it's also true that you've never read the book, right? So you can make claims about something that you've never actually read. But once you've actually been well read, it's obvious that he didn't fulfill even one prophecy. And the New Testament doesn't even list 300. The New Testament maybe lists a maximum of 40. So the 300 number is just a bunch of fanciful coping. And Carlos Valdez, good to see you tonight. Thank you so much for the 200 MX. It says, "Hail, Doug, ready for another cook." Well, thank you so much for supporting the barbecue. And we've got some baby back ribs coming up and some deep fried crispy Christians. And Carlos sending out 5 Deconstruction Zone memberships with that. Thank you so much, Carlos. I really appreciate gifting out the subbies for other people who can access the cheat sheet now. And Johanna, thank you again so much for the super chat. Says, how can anyone in 2925 still be religious? Understand your own self-worth, believe in yourself, and live your life accordingly. I could not say it better than that. We don't need the sky carcass. The cloud zombie is useless. He doesn't answer prayer. He's not good for anything. And the book is hopelessly contradictory. And Jackson says, Cho, I'm a nice guy, but I'm losing brain cells. Kick him. So, well, listen, I got rid of him. He's gone. We'll get the next one in here. And Jam and Jay, thank you for the super chat. Says, chosen king. I thought we're an autonomous commune. That's a great Monty Python reference, by the way. I love that one. All right, let me grab just a couple more super chats. Sorry, I got backed up because it was a long conversation. And Fen, again with the super chat, says it's weird. They think God always warns people about atrocities he commits. Nobody was warned about the flood except for Noah. Yeah, there's a verse in 2 Peter where it says that Noah was a herald of righteousness, but it doesn't mean that he was like preaching people to get on the ark. God tells him before he gets on the ark that only he and his family are going to be saved. That's wishful thinking if you think Moses told anybody about what was going on. Yeah, I'm with you there. And Chino says, "Oh, brother Doug of immaculate erection." Oh, amen. Well, I agree. Amen. Hail, Doug. And Selah says, "I love when a Christian who has never or hardly read their Bible try to fit in context into the text where it doesn't exist." Actually, that's pretty much usually what happens, right? When you don't like what the text actually says, you kind of have to make up additional details to make it work. And last one from Johanna again. Thank you so much, Johanna. Says, I admire your saintly patience. How many more badly translated interpretations of the Bible will it take for people to realize it's just a bunch of bullshit? Just let it go. Just right. Just do what Bill Burr told you. Just let it go. Just let it. Just like a curling stone. Just let it go. You're gonna be fine. You don't need it. Not doing anything for you. So we've got in the guest box Blue. You're
Hey,
my boy,
Dustin.
Blue. Welcome in.
What's up, man? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. So, I mean, are you taking like only debates, or could you ask a question I have?
Well, normally I'm only taking debates, but it's been a slow night and I don't have anyone waiting, so I don't mind taking a question. But before you do that, if you want to debate, you want to get into the discussion, go to tinyurl.com/dzguest. If you're watching on YouTube, you can find a link in the description of the video to click on that will get you there, or on Facebook or Twitch or anywhere else, and then you'll be able to join in the discussion. I cannot take guests on TikTok tonight because I'm running on a Mac and I can't use TikTok Studio on a Mac, but I can stream it over to TikTok using Streamlabs. I just can't take any guests through Streamlabs on TikTok. They don't have that feature yet. So anyways, what's on your mind, Blue?
So I was in a debate with a person that's active in the server, and it was getting into a lot of Koine Greek, and he kept on saying that I think it's Matthew 25:46, that kolesis ionios and zo ionios can mean different periods of time. He's a universalist, so he doesn't believe in eternal hell. And I was trying to prove that he's wrong. I was trying to ask him if he thinks Jesus is a liar because of that.
So there's a couple words in Greek that are difficult, similar to like there's a wide semantic range for olam in Hebrew. Olam can just refer to an indefinite period of time, meaning a period that doesn't have a defined ending. And then when we find like the aeonon in Greek, it's also like typically a very long, undefined period of time. So it usually gets translated as everlasting, or sometimes it could be translated as like an age, an aeon. So it doesn't always mean that it has an end, but sometimes it can have an end. And this is the slippery slope that apologists will play, is they'll find a word that has a semantic range, and then what they'll do is say, well, because the word has a semantic range, I'm going to pick the part of the word that I just like, the definition of the word that I like best. I'm going to ignore the context. I'm going to ignore how it usually gets used. I'm going to ignore the culture. And I'm just going to pick the definition of the word that I prefer that fits with my particular view of the passage. But to be sure, that particular word in Matthew shows up in the Bible, and 99.9% of the time, it is always translated as eternal. There's like only 2 instances where it's not translated as eternal, which means like if you're using this Greek word as an argument for a non-eternal punishment or non-eternal fire, I think you're barking up the wrong tree. I don't think it's a good argument.
That's what I was thinking. He kept on arguing that, and he's a really big coper. We're talking
Yeah.
today, dude. He's called Jesus a liar 4 different times because of language he uses. So I was wondering about that, and I was trying to get an expert opinion on it.
Yeah, that's it. There are some arguments to be made from the Bible that hell is not permanent. Like a lot of people hold to the annihilation theory because of a couple of different passages. Like Jesus talks about the shaft being burned up in the furnace, and then in Revelation 21 talks about how death and Hades are going to be thrown into the lake of fire, which is the second death. And Jesus even warns, says, "Do not be afraid of the one who can kill the body, but be afraid of the one who can kill both the body and the soul in hell," which seems to suggest that hell might be an eternal fire, but your time there is not eternal. Your time there might be limited. You might be burned up completely. So I don't know, but if you're just looking at the grammar, if you're just looking at the language, I think the language in a lot of places indicates that the punishment is eternal. Either way, it's horrific. Like even if hell is temporary, it's horrific. It doesn't make sense whether it's permanent. Like there's nothing my child could do that would make me want to light them on fire even for 1 second.
I agree with that, and I don't, you probably know the verse because you read this a lot. He mentioned a verse in return to me saying about how hell is no matter what, it's going to be awful. He mentioned that I brought up the whole why should a murderer go to heaven if I'm his murderee and then I get to go to hell because I didn't get to repent. And then he mentioned it's some verse talking about how if you obey your master, you get like hit harder. If you don't obey your master, but you get hit harder or something like that. I can't exactly remember.
Yes, so there's a passage, like a mini parable, where Jesus is suggesting that there is a greater responsibility for those who know the gospel, and there's a lesser responsibility for those who don't know the gospel, right? So people that are part of the Christian faith are going to be held to a higher account than those who may not fully be aware. That's probably what he was appealing to.
And you're saying that he would get the person that murdered me would get punished even if he repents, but I said that faith in Christ is all that's needed, and he's like, but it's not true faith. And then he
Yeah,
also
I
hates
mean,
Catholics.
I would take him to the parable of the 11th hour. There's a really great parable that Jesus tells where he in the morning he gets a day laborer and hires them, and then after a couple hours goes back for another day laborer, brings them in, hires them. Midday gets another one. Anyways, he's getting these day laborers throughout the day, getting more and more labor, and then at the end of the day, he pays all of them the same amount. And the ones who worked all day were like, "That's not fair. This guy who's only been here for 1 hour got the same pay as me. That's horseshit." And Jesus is like, "Hey, the kingdom of God isn't fair. You can repent in the 11th hour." Basically, is what he's saying. Even if you lived your whole life, you get the same reward as the person who only lived under the gospel for 1 minute. The guy who was there for 1 minute gets the same thing as the guy who was there for 75 years. And so I think that's a really good parable, because if we're just talking about what the end goal is, if the end goal is to getting to heaven, then the parable of the 11th hour basically says what you need it to say.
All right, thank you so much for that, dude. I'm gonna tell him that. I just looked it up. It's Matthew 20, 21 through 16. So
Yeah,
I'll go ahead and tell him that. I really appreciate that. And also,
absolutely.
one of my friends, he texted me, wants you to know that Darth is blaspheming Doug right now. He wanted me to tell you that before I left. So,
Um, Doug will take care of it. Don't worry.
I need to join your Discord. I don't know why I'm not in there. All right, anyways, I'm
Join
gonna
up.
get out of here. I will. I'm gonna get out of here, Justin.
All
Thank you for
right.
having me up, man.
Cheers, Blue. Good to hear from you. W for Blue. It's hard dealing with some of the apologist nonsense. You know what I mean? Oh, excuse me. Ah, D. Frederick, thank you for the super chat. We got another guest in the queue waiting to come up, so we'll give him in a second. D. Frederick says, I know you'll probably address this, but how does Jesus saying he was without sin he who is without sin cast the first stone reconciled with his upholding Mosaic laws? So, first of all, I don't think that period happened, which is the first problem. That's in John chapter 8. We don't have any evidence of that passage until like the 5th or the 6th century. It seems to be a later interpolation, and it disagrees with Jesus elsewhere. Elsewhere, Jesus, like in Mark chapter 7, advocates for the stoning of the children that curse their parents. Why would Jesus be upset that the Pharisees are not stoning their children and then try to save this adulterous woman? Now, unless he didn't believe she was guilty. Maybe he didn't believe she was guilty. But I think even if John 8 was original to the scripture, I don't think most of what John records is true, by the way. Most, like, of all the Gospels, John quotes these long prayers and diatribes of Jesus. And I was like, who the fuck was writing it down? Who was there writing down Jesus's words? Do you think John was chilling with Jesus with a pen and a notepad just writing down John chapter 17, like 300 or 400 words worth of prayer? Or do you think like he was there and he heard it, and then like, I don't know, a couple years later he just happened to remember everything Jesus said? That's crazy to think that. Anyways, when we're talking about the words that Jesus spoke, I'm dubious of most things in the Gospel of John. And Rockhard for Doug says, why bring yourself down with a horrendous God of the Old Testament when you can skip to the Jesus philosophies of love by just being humanitarian? Praise Doug. Actually, I'm with you. Like, here's the thing though, but once you get to the point where you're like, listen, I'm just going to be part of the faith because I like the philosophy. Once you get to that point, like, you don't really need the book anymore. You don't need Jesus. You don't need the book. You don't need none of that stuff. You can just say like, oh, well, like there's other religions that teach similar stuff that are not horrific, and I'll just follow that religion. I'll just be Buddhist. And Frederick, again, thank you so much, says the existence of prophet prisons is something a good God shouldn't allow. Actually, I'm with you. Of the things that we've invented in modern society, for-profit prisons might be among the worst things that have ever been invented. They're horrific. Nothing like incentivizing locking people up and making them prisoners, literally slaves. And Johanna, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. I appreciate that. Big W. Johannes says any person who has a library card doesn't see it and has only one book on their life's reading list might as well pass go and go straight to their own fabricated hell. Yeah, actually, I'm shocked. Listen, I know people get bored. I get it, but I'm shocked, Johanna, by the amount of people who don't read. I personally, I enjoy reading. I love learning. I love reading. Readers are leaders. Always remember that. And like, I'm disappointed that there's so many people that claim to be educated and they haven't read a book. You know, it's weird to me. But we've got Ben back with us. Ben, you've been kind of in and out of the guest box for like the last hour, so I wanted to make sure you got an opportunity to come up. Can you hear me, Ben?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out my headphones here.
Yeah, headphones would definitely help.
Here, I don't know if it's working or not. Can you hear me?
Hmm. Yeah, I can hear
All
you.
right. Yeah, I hope. Yeah, I think the whole thing contradicts itself, the whole Bible. I think that, it's basically saying that Jesus is Lucifer. You know,
Yeah, you mean there's
you
the
know.
passage in Revelation where Jesus says that he is the bright morning star?
Yes.
Well,
Hold
I
on, I
think
got. Yeah, go ahead.
I think what's happening there is more nuanced. So I don't believe that Lucifer is Satan.
Like
Lucifer,
Isaiah 14:12, and then
I'm aware,
Revelation
but that's not.
22:16.
I'm aware. Yes. So just follow along. Follow along. So
Yep.
Lucifer in Isaiah 7:14 is a reference to the morning star, which was associated with the planet Venus, and
Yep.
so this here is not a reference to Satan. So the morning star in Isaiah 14 is referring to a foreign mythology that was known to the king of Babylon, namely the myth, I believe, of Athtar, who failed in taking over the throne of Baal.
You
So
saying Ishtar?
Athtar.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what's happening. So Venus, the planet Venus, was referred to as the morning star, and the reason why this title was important was because Venus, being the brightest of the stars of the morning stars, was typically referred to as like the highest of the stars. Like they were the most special, the most grandiose of all the stars because it was so bright you can even see it in the morning. And so when Jesus says that he is the bright morning star, he's not saying that he is the same person Isaiah was talking about. He is saying that no, I'm the brightest of them all. I'm the best. I'm number one. Does that make sense?
Right.
That's how I'm
Right.
reading it. But I agree with you. The Bible does contradict itself quite a bit.
Right. Like Psalms 82:6, it says, "I have said ye are gods," and like 1 Corinthians 3:23, "You are Christ, and Christ is God's." And then Colossians 2:9, that the fullness of God's divine essence, the Godhead in bodily form. Like it just contradicts the whole self. The whole Bible does.
I agree. Yeah. Well, listen, Ben, are you in our Discord yet?
No.
So do me a favor and join our Discord and shoot me a message or put a message in my chat in there because I love going over the contradictions of the Bible. It's possible that you know some that I haven't written down yet. So hit me
Like
up offline.
I reject the materialist view that we are random by byproducts of evolution. Instead, I propose that humanity is divine, an origin trapped in a civilization, deceptive reality ruled by fallen angels, artificial intelligence, which we call, AI, Saturn Matrix. I don't know. I have a different view on all this stuff. Like I believe that this is all sun worship. All religions are to religion you. I believe that we're divine consciences, from God. I don't believe that there's a God being, a sky daddy, but I believe that we have like the one spark, like divine, like essence in us. Like I don't know, like how to explain it, but
What's the one thing that distinguishes your God existing from not existing?
I'm not saying that there is a God. I'm saying that we are all God,
So then there's
living
no
in
God.
flesh. No, there's not. Lucifer
Well,
is God.
if there's No, he's definitely not. If there's no
Well, if you
differentiation
know anything
between
about
everything and
Freemasonry, then you would
God,
know
then that
that.
means that God doesn't exist.
You ever heard the Knights Templar, the Freemasons, and
Yes, I'm
you
familiar with
you
all
know
of the secret
anything about
societies.
symbolism? You know, you would know all this.
No, I know that you're into conspiracy theories.
Right.
I'm not. Okay,
Evolution
so
teaches that
I'm
we're
in
animals,
I'm into
soulless. You know.
facts. Yeah, we are soulless animals, I agree.
You know, this is
S-
all the big.
So
You know, they all want it to be true.
what's the evidence that souls exist?
I don't know how to like. I'm not even saying that there is any souls.
Oh, okay, so we are soulless animals. Cool.
You're not
So
understanding.
you don't really believe in a traditional God. You think that God is everything?
I know. I believe that we're a divine consciousness from that one spark of God, but we're not.
Right.
God's not. He's
Yeah, why
not
do
a
you believe
physical
this?
being.
Yeah, why do you believe this nonsense?
Why do I believe this nonsense? Because the whole Bible contradicts itself, and this
Well, the
whole world's
Bible has got
ran
nothing
off.
to do with it.
There's no argument there that the Bible contradicts itself. We already know that.
Yeah, we agree on that, but I want to know how you went from the Bible contradicts itself to God is indistinguishable from like the hole in the ground.
I don't know what you're trying to say.
If God is everything, then God is nothing.
The God of the Bible is not real.
I agree. We agree. The God of the Bible is not real, but you believe in some kind of a God, and you said that everything is God.
Not really what I'm saying.
Okay. Well, listen, I think you need to formulate your belief system a little bit better and try again, but you're welcome to come back
Yeah.
and give it a shot, okay?
Well, yeah, I know. I've been waiting in line.
Yep, you're going to be waiting a little bit more because that is bullshit argument you got there. All right. Anyway, so Randy, shit. Randy, thank you so much for gifting out 5 Deconstruction Zone memberships again. Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate that. And we're going to get Darth in here. We'll see who it is. If it's Darth Dawkins, we'll see. It's been a minute since we got to talk. It only lasted like 30 seconds last time. D. Frederick says the entire double fulfillment Jesus will fulfill prophecies spiritually is one big cope. So, Frederick, I agree with you. This is a topic that I've been talking about nonstop for ever since I got on the internet. The fact that Jesus fulfilled anything is a bullshit cope. He didn't fulfill a damn thing. And Sayla, thank you for the super chat. Says, do your own research. That's literally what Justin did. And when he presented you with his extensive research, you denied it with no rebuttals. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Cognitive dissonance is a motherfucker. You can look with enough cognitive dissonance. You can look at a hurricane and be like, I ain't gonna get wet, motherfucker. You're gonna get wet. It's a hurricane. And Ray, thank you for the 666. Hail Satan, a W Nero, says quickest path to atheism is through the Bible. Read it end to end with no prejudice, intent to discover and understand. Tell me where you end up. I agree, actually. That's what you need to do. If you want to know where you fall on the religion spectrum, just read that Bible. You'll learn a few things. And Brent, thank you for the 199 super thanks. And also for the super chat, Brett. I appreciate that. It says with that Hosea verse, it can't be about Jesus because it mentions the son called out of burning incense. But yeah, exactly. The same person that was called out of Egypt was also doing idolatry. But listen, you can't expect Christians to actually read and comprehend the meaning of words. And Spencer, thank you for the super chat. Says Doug plays basketball. His specialty is a full quartz press. Bazing. And that's why basketball players say, pass me the rock. Send me the rock, because Doug is the rock. And Spencer says Doug wasn't so good at basketball. Wait, Doug was good. He wasn't spent most of his time on the bench. That's why it's called the dugout. Oh, baseball. Sorry, my brain slipped. Doug wasn't so good at baseball. Spent most of his time on the bench. That's why they call it a dugout. I like that actually. Bench warmers though. Anyone who ever had to sit on a bench Doug feels your pain. He knows what it's like. And Evan, thank you for the super chat. Good to see you tonight, friends. Says Christians don't read the Bible because learning is scary. Actually, that's a fair point. There's quite a few. I've met quite a few Christians that are afraid to engage in counter apologetics because they're afraid of learning something that could deter them. But Johanna, thank you again so much for the super chat. Appreciate it. It says, "Why do religious people think we are special? Like we are at the top of the shit list. If I had a choice, I would have picked to be born as an entirely different animal." That's actually a really good point. Like it is kind of cool to be human, but like I don't know. There might be better animals to be than humans, quite honestly. And it's been recognized for a long time that humans are to be pitied more than all animals because humans can contemplate their own death, whereas most animals, they just die. They have no idea they're going to die. As they're dying, they have no idea they're dying. Um, Dying's not that bad. Knowing you're going to die seems to be the problem. Anyways, welcome in, Darth.
Oh, hello. Sorry, I'm a bit new to this, so excuse me if I make some mistakes.
Welcome
You're
in.
hearing me,
It's
I'm
fine.
guessing?
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about making any mistakes. We're all gonna make some mistakes.
Okay, so I guess I'll just give you a quick overview. I'm not that famous Darth that everyone's been talking about. I
It's all
just
right.
picked a name and went in. Okay, so I was raised Catholic, but I consider myself a heretic at this point because I follow some things that the Catholic Church says, and there are other things I just don't. Politically, I'm Bonapartist, and I must be a masochist mentally because I absolutely love debating atheists, and in the most friendliest way. I don't get angry, so don't worry. You can say almost anything. I'm not gonna get pissed.
Well, should be interesting then. So it sounds like you're still Christian though. You're just kind of a
Yes,
lapsed Catholic.
yes, sort of a Catholic who goes his own way, chooses what he wants and what he doesn't want, but
Yeah, I
stays
recognize
Christian, I
that.
guess. Yeah.
Yeah. My mom's of that persuasion.
Ah, okay.
She called herself a recovering Catholic for a while, but either way, so what if I had to put it to you, what would be like the most compelling argument or evidence for your God?
So, after many years debating atheists like yourself, I can say there is no evidence. It
Well,
is faith-based,
we agree then.
but yes, we do agree with that. It is definitely faith-based, but if there was anything that I personally use, again, this is going to be out of nowhere. You may not have heard this before, but I find it less comforting that there is a God, so I believe there's a God, than if there isn't.
Can
I'm
you
not sure if that
expound
makes
on
sense.
that? Because I feel like most people, myself probably
Mhm.
included, would find it more comforting that there is a God, assuming that the God is good. If the God's not good, then I could see why you wouldn't want the God to exist.
But then remember, I do believe in the biblical version, so I do see things of God that I don't think are moral, and therefore I would not believe in the good, quote unquote, by human standards as to a good God. So
Yeah.
now, will I go as far as to say evil? No, I wouldn't go as far as to say evil. I will just say he has his own moral systems, and it doesn't matter what we think is right.
Okay, so this is interesting. So, Dart, you're doing something that I would just refer to as being honest, which means
Mhm.
you're looking at the God of the Bible and you're like, hey, there's some unsavory stuff in there, right? And I agree with you. When I look at the God of the Bible, I'm like, I don't like that so much. So yeah, if
Mhm.
that God exists, then yeah, I'm not too keen on that God. If there was like an all good version of God, I could be definitely I can warm up to that particular God. So all that being said, I think you and I are basically we might be on the same page. The God of the Bible seems a little bit barbaric, right?
Yes, I would say they're definite. Now, that is to say there are things that I don't even think um, were issued by God. So, for example, let's say we're talking about, when he commands the Israelites to wipe out a people. I personally, the way I look at that when I read it is, no, this wasn't God who said it. It's just whoever was writing that, passage, or whoever needed to command the Israelites at that point, who decided to throw his own thing in there and say, hey, God told me to tell you to go kill those people.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So, how do you determine which parts came from God and which ones didn't come from God?
Yeah, I should add that I'm a relativist, so you'll find that maybe the answer I give to that would be empty, but my answer to it would be is whatever sounds like it makes sense, I follow. And the reason I brought up relativism is, if I'm understanding that concept correctly, there are certain laws that I absolutely think are silly in the real world, but that doesn't mean that I get to throw my hands up and say the law doesn't exist. So just as I can accept, unjust laws, I can accept a possibly unjust God.
Is it possible that the God of the Bible exists and he's actually just a maniacal prick? Is that a possibility?
It's a possibility, but again, it's a possibility based on standards, right? So for me and for you, ordering people to go, wipe out another people or genocide is absolutely a prick move. And that's why I choose not to believe that particular portion of it. But
So,
I bet we will bump into something that you might think is unjust and I might think is just.
well, let me ask you a question. Like, if you're just gonna pick and choose, like the parts that sound good, you're gonna be like, okay, I
Yeah,
like that, I'm gonna keep that. I don't like that, I'm gonna get rid of that. Okay, if that's your
yeah.
method for defining God, then what the fuck do you need the Bible for? Just define God the way that makes sense to you and throw the Bible out.
Because again, that relativism kicks in, right? That I see a lot of these points and dissatisfaction that you've brought up in this world, in the politics of this world, and the wars of this world, and in all the ridiculousness of this world. I see the exact same silliness that I find in parts of the Bible and in the belief of God. And I just think I have to be fair across the board. If I'm going to be fair with the politics and the world that I live in, then I can be fair with religion, God, and such things of that nature.
Right, but listen to what I'm suggesting. Okay, what I'm suggesting is that like you're looking at the Bible and you're saying this part I can't accept, this part I can't accept, which means you've made yourself like the arbiter of defining what God is and what God isn't, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm suggesting is that if you now are the decider of who and what God is, then what do you need the book for? Just make up the God the way that makes the most sense to you and throw away the rest of the book. You don't need it. It's useless to you.
Isn't that essentially what I'm doing? I guess you're
Yeah,
telling me to
that's what I'm
throw away the
saying.
entire. You're telling me to throw away
Yeah.
the entire book, but again, like I would say, if I find a couple bad laws, do I throw out the law? No.
Well, but that's what I'm suggesting is like if you already believe in a God, you
Mhm.
clearly don't believe in the Bible God. You're just picking the parts of the Bible God that you like. If that's what you're doing, you can do all of that without a Bible. You don't need a Quran, you don't need a Bible, you don't need a Bhagavad Gita, you don't need none of that stuff. You can just say, I believe in a God, and these are the properties that make the most sense to me. What do you need the book for?
I guess if I were to honestly answer that, I would say I like of all the different versions of gods out there, and it might just be my bias that I've grown up in that religion, that I
Hmm.
choose the Christian version. And the honest reason is it's the only version of God where he does something. He takes responsibility for creation. I think creation is a dangerous, destructive thing. I mean, that's a little spun off from, if I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Prometheus, where David the android has discovered creation and he does the most wildest, dangerous things with it. So I think this Jesus version of God is a God who's like, yeah, you know what? I screwed up. Let me go down and try to fix this myself.
Who
So that's why I choose.
who is Jesus praying to?
Who is Jesus praying to? Well, obviously, I believe in the Trinitarian version of it. So Jesus is God, right?
So he's schizophrenic.
Is he? No, he's only schizophrenic if you are looking at him as purely human, right?
Right, but like people who talk to themselves typically like get put in padded rooms.
I think we all talk to ourselves. I think anybody who's saying they don't talk to themselves is lying.
Does yourself talk back to you?
Yeah, I think so. I think we would call that thought. I don't think I'd call it schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is something you get diagnosed with when you start doing, something spontaneous and ridiculous, and when the voices tell you to go do something.
You ever
I
pray to
don't think my
yourself?
voice is. I pray. I don't think I'm praying to myself. You might say you would say I'm praying to myself because you're an atheist, right?
Why does Jesus and the Father not have the same will?
I would say they have the same will. What
Well,
is
they
an
can't.
example of them not having the same will?
When he prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane, he says, "Your will be done, not mine."
Yes.
Which means Jesus didn't want to go to that cross. He prayed in anguish to take that away, not to send him to the cross. And then ultimately, he bowed his will to the Father's will, which means they're clearly not the same person if they have different minds and different wills.
That's why it said three persons in one God. They are clearly three different persons.
Yeah, but there's three different gods too.
No, not three different gods.
Oh, they certainly are three different gods, yeah.
Well,
What makes them
you
one
can
god?
say that, but you can say that, but then that's not the Trinitarian mystery itself, right?
Well, I don't think the Trinitarian is a mystery. I think it's just ridiculous. Like you're
Well,
saying,
it might
it
seem
it breaks
ridiculous, but
it breaks logic. So rather than saying it's illogical, I'm just going to call it a mystery. It's just illogical.
the reason why I would say it does not break logic is you're trying to describe something that you cannot put under a microscope or observe. So, who is to say that something cannot be three persons and still be one thing?
Because it's
For example, if aliens came out of the sky and I don't know, they had some other uh, breathing apparatus, you can't say, well, I don't believe that breathing apparatus just because you've never seen it before.
right. So you're appealing to a logic that you don't know exists.
Exactly, yeah. It is a logic that we
S-
don't know exists. Neither of us can prove,
Right. So
but that is my belief. So
just
to
want to make
use
sure
your rationale,
just want
sorry.
to make sure we're on the same page real quick. You're saying that there is a different type of logic that we don't know about. It kind of sounds to me like you're inventing a new form of logic to get around the fact that the Trinity is illogical.
Wait, I don't know how you got down that path. Sorry. I'm saying it's logical because at least when I say it, it's logical because I'm talking about something alien. You can't, you don't believe in the thing. If I'm telling you about the thing, and you think it's illogical, then I really can't help you with that because to me it makes logical sense. Three persons within one God. Obviously, it sounds ridiculous because you cannot observe any other being like that on this planet.
Certainly is ridiculous, yes.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
it would be three gods. What's the thing that makes them
No,
one god and not three gods?
that's the thing that makes them one God. I guess the way I would answer that is because he said so, and I'm going by his word. Yeah.
But we already said you get the stuff that doesn't make sense you can get rid of. Just get rid of the Trinity.
No, because if I get rid of the Trinity, then it's no longer God taking responsibility for the mess up that is creation.
That's his fuck up. He doesn't have to listen. If he wanted to take responsibility for it, he could have just fixed it. He didn't. He didn't have to come down and sacrifice himself to himself. That didn't fix anything. He could have just clicked his fingers and forgave everybody.
That's this. I've heard this a lot from atheists, and to me, that just comes off as, wouldn't it be nice if everyone had $1 million and a mansion
Oh
and a
no,
fast
not even
car?
close. Had
Yeah, it's
nothing to
the
do with
same
what I
thing.
said. That had nothing to
Well,
do with what I said.
that's just
I
the
said,
easy way out.
no, it's not even close. You have no idea what I just said. I didn't say anything about living an easy life. I said he could have clicked his fingers and forgave everybody. You're suggesting that Jesus was sent because he needed to fix the mess. Presumably, you're suggesting that Jesus was sent to reverse the curse. But he doesn't have to kill Jesus to reverse the curse. He can just reverse the curse. He can just say so.
You're going by an assumption there that I don't quite follow. I'm not quite sure what makes you the arbiter to say that he does not need to do that. How do you
It's,
know he didn't need to do that?
it's just definitionally true. Is God all powerful?
Um, I actually don't know. Maybe not.
So God's not powerful enough to control who he forgives?
Wait, no. That's a different question from the first one. You asked, is God all powerful?
Right, but presumably the power we're talking about is the power to forgive people.
If I respond with God may not be all powerful, then that does kind of answer your second question, because I'm already,
No.
if I had said that he was all powerful, then we can go down that path.
Yeah, but my question was whether or not he had the power to forgive people. Is that something that he has the power to do?
He has the power to forgive people, yes, but the debate is whether or not he needed to sacrifice himself for it.
Right.
And
Yeah,
to my knowledge, he was
that's the
forgiving
question.
people. He was forgiving people before Jesus came too. From my understanding, Jews always believed in some form of forgiveness.
Right. So the question is, why does God need to murder Jesus to forgive anyone?
Well, again, I have to disagree with the way you're phrasing it, because from my point of view, it's why is God, why does God need to sacrifice himself? You're saying that God is sending this person, but that's not how I see it.
Right. What did Jesus die for?
As a sacrifice
There you go.
for
Okay.
our, yeah,
To atone
a
for the
sacrifice for our
sins,
sins.
right?
Yes.
Was God capable of just forgiving the sins?
Um, I don't know. Maybe not.
You don't know? So God can't control who he forgives. That's the power even I have as a human being. You're telling me I'm more powerful than God?
You're looking at it from a human perspective of you forgiving, let's say, someone who's done you something wrong, right?
Actually, I would just pause briefly, take a deep breath, Darth. I want you to take account for where the conversation has led you to this point. You're suggesting that me, a human being, I have control over who I choose to forgive, but God, the strongest agent in the universe, can't control who he chooses to forgive. So he doesn't even have control over his own agency.
I think you're misunderstanding what the sacrifice was.
Nope, I'm
It
not talking about
wasn't
the
a
sacrifice.
sacrifice.
I'm talking about God forgiving people.
So what I said was he was always forgiving people before that. Before Jesus, he was already forgiving sin.
Shit, we got a co-host up in here now. Can you guys see her? Let's make sure your mic works, though, Sarah. Sure. Sorry, hold on. Let me make sure your audio works. We should hold on. It says your microphone works. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh, I can't see you.
No, unfortunately not.
Oh.
But you got to put your earbuds in.
Oh man. All right. Hang on.
Sorry. We've got Darth on the line with us right now.
One sec. Let me
Just make sure they know it's not the famous star.
No, they know.
Okay. Wait. I'll connect. Wait. Can people see me or just hear me?
They can see and hear you.
Oh. Okay. Wait. Hang on. Let me disconnect. How do I do this? Earphones. Okay. And disconnect. And then I'll connect. What button do I press?
Are your earbuds connected to your PC?
Bluetooth. And connect.
Should be just like we set it up for the Bible study.
Whew,
Looks like it's working.
got it.
We're good to go. All right, fantastic. For anyone who doesn't know, this is Sarah, known as Leaving Faith. We're actually we're going to be recording this week our next installment of the Bible study that we've been doing on her channel. So make sure you're following Leaving Faith. And we've got Darth with us right now. We're trying to get to the bottom of whether or not God had the ability to forgive humanity, or whether or not he had to murder somebody to forgive them.
Gotcha.
Again, I will disagree with the phrasing of it, but hey, I don't think we'll get around that.
So
Darth, do you think he has like full is God all powerful and can do anything he wants, or is he bound by some natural laws?
I believe he might be bound by some laws.
How come?
Because it doesn't make sense to be all powerful, all good. I think it was called the Epicurean riddle or something along those lines.
yeah, we know about the Epicurean paradox.
Yes. So I'd say no, he's probably not all powerful.
But does he at least have power over who he chooses to forgive?
Yes.
Okay, good. So God could forgive anybody he wants to?
He could, yes.
So then why did he have to kill Jesus?
Well, again, I would say he didn't kill Jesus. Jesus was him, so just with that little quibble. But what I would say is I can forgive as well. I have the same power like you to forgive. But guess what? I don't forgive everyone. There are people I haven't forgiven.
Right, but we're trying to get to the bottom of whether or not he needed to sacrifice anything, right? So if God has the ability to forgive, what was stopping him to forgive people?
Oh, wait, I think I disagree with that. I don't think he needed to forgive.
But he wanted to, right? He wanted to forgive people?
He wanted to. He wanted to forgive people, but again, we're confusing his forgiveness with the sacrifice, and I feel like we stepped away from the sacrifice.
No, we already went over this. He sent Jesus to atone for the sins, which equals forgiveness of the sins.
No, it's a doorway to allow faster access to forgiveness.
No.
Faster?
Yes. Because
That's not what
before
it's...
forgiveness, I've always said,
Faster.
That's not what
Israelites were
atone
always
means.
able to ask. The
That's not
Israelites
what
were always able to ask for forgiveness prior to Jesus.
That's not what atone means. Do you know what the word atone means?
I know what the word atone means, but you did introduce it here. I don't quite know
What's it mean?
Atonement is to make right or something, right?
It's a covering for sin, right? So the way that you dealt with the impurity of sin was that you covered it, right? And so if Jesus is the atonement for the sin, he's the covering for the sin. He's the thing that fixes the sin and makes you right. Right?
Yeah, yes, but that's not automatic. To me, Jesus, what he did was a sacrifice to allow an opening or a faster access to forgiveness. But it's not forgiveness itself.
But could God do it without killing Jesus?
Wait, well, define it. Can he do what?
Could God open up the forgiveness highway without killing anyone?
Probably not.
What a weak God. That's
it might
crazy.
Be weak. It might be weak, but again, it's logical. It makes sense. At least
it does
what
not
do you
make
like
any
about
sense.
this God? Like, what is it about this God that you like and worship?
Well, you missed the part where I said it before, but the reason I cling to the Christian God is because it's the only God who took responsibility for the mess up that is this existence.
How did he, so you like this God because this God screwed up and he's owning up to his own mistakes?
Yes.
That's it?
Well, I wouldn't say that's it. I think that's pretty unique when looking at all the other religions. I have yet to
It's
really find another
unique,
one that
but
does that.
I mean, is that worth worshiping? That's what a lot of us do. That seems pretty normal and pretty human.
I guess I'm comfortable with it because I had said to Justin, is it? I had said to Justin that I'm a relativist, so I see a lot of these contradictions and silliness in just reality. I bring up the law a lot when I say that because there are a lot of unjust cops, a lot of unjust laws. Just because a cop pulls me over for the wrong reason and beats me up doesn't mean I get to say the cop doesn't exist, right?
Sure, but you don't have to worship the cop.
Plus, you know the cop exists because he pulled you over and beat you up.
Yeah, but we won't know the punishment until the end. So apparently there is a punishment towards the end. So
Right, but in the example you gave, you know the cop exists
yeah,
because he beat you up. We have no evidence that God is the cop that beat us all up.
that's true. But I think I conceded that from the beginning that I will have no evidence to give you.
Fair enough. You did
Yeah,
concede that, and so we still agree on that point. But listen, Darth, I had a good time talking to you. We got to get to a couple of the other guests in the queue, but thanks for
sure.
coming up and chatting.
One quick question, if I may, just before I go.
Sure.
I don't know if I understood correctly, but did you say you went to seminary and studied the Bible?
Yeah, I went to Bible college and seminary.
Would that be for to be like a Catholic priest, or just curious about that?
No, it was a Protestant
Oh,
seminary.
okay.
There are Catholic seminaries that would allow non-Catholics in, but you can't do an MDiv there. So, like, initially I was going to go to Notre Dame. I love Notre Dame, by the way, but I wanted to do a full MDiv, not just a master's degree. And you have to be Catholic to do their full MDiv program, so I didn't go there.
All right, perfect. Thanks so much for answering my questions, and thanks for having me on, Justin. I
All right,
had fun.
cheers. Good to hear from Darth.
Cheers.
Well, that was new. did did not expect some of those answers.
It's so interesting to me when I get a lot of commenters who say some version of like, well, that's just what God is, and we don't really have a lot of options, and that's fine, but like I don't understand why you would worship that God, like that's
Yeah,
where you kind of lose me.
yeah. The guy, he's deconstructing. He doesn't know it yet, but he's deconstructing. It sounds like it's just he grew up with it and he's not ready to let go of it yet.
I get that.
Yeah. I'm going to grab a couple super chats and we're going to get our next guest in here. Guys, while I'm doing that, make sure you're following Sarah's channel. Go to Leaving Faith and follow Sarah's channel on TikTok and on YouTube. She's a vital member of our community and wicked, wicked smart. Matthew March, thank you for the super chat. Says, trade you a favor for a Doug sighting. Appreciate you as always. Wait, a $5. Trade you a $5. Sorry. Well, thank you so much for the $5, Matthew, and big W for the profile picture. Looks like our divinity Doug, the divine rock. W there. And Ray Fuller, thank you so much for the 666. Says, oh my God, you are so much better than Matt Dillahunty these days. You still use logic and wit. Matt has spiraled into ego-driven hate and vulgarity. Listen, Matt seems to be increasingly hostile. I still enjoy watching, but there are a couple of times where like he's really bit some people's heads off. I was like, I don't know if that's the route I was gonna take, but he's still listen, whether you like him or not, he's fun to watch, I think. And Max, thank you for the super chat. Says this is just some free money. Hail Doug. Well, shit. Thank you so much, Max. I appreciate it. Hail Doug. Absolutely. And I reacted in the house tonight. Good to see you, friend. Says, what's your apologetic for Doug torturing the poor bloke Sisyphus? Praise Doug. Here's some cash. Well, listen. That's a tough question. Actually, I might have to pray about that one. For those who don't know, in Hades, there's a guy named Sisyphus who's cursed to push a rock up a hill for all of eternity. And it's a dire situation. I don't blame Doug, but I don't have an answer for that. I'm gonna have to pray for answers to Doug. But thank you for the question, iReactor. That's a good question. And Luke says, did you watch Alex O'Connor's debate with Cliff about slavery? I got to be honest, I didn't, because I've already heard Cliff and his son talk about it so many times with the same old talking points. They weren't going to bring anything new to the table, so it's kind of like, I don't really need this debate. I'm not gonna learn anything new. So no, I didn't watch it, but I love Alex. I should watch it. And last one, Johanna, thank you so much for the super chat. It says, I loved reading. My early childhood was filled with fairy tales. I grew up, stopped believing these fairy tales were true, but I still have instilled in me the positive life lesson that every fairy tale tries to teach us. This is actually a really good point. There is a Bible commentary that kind of touches on this that you may be interested in. It's called Joshua in 3D. It was written by Daniel Hawk. And his theory was that some of the stories in the Bible are kind of like tapping into these primal instincts we have as storytellers to like tell stories about underdogs and heroes and things like that. It's actually really interesting. Definitely worth a read. But with that, we're going to get our next guest in here who doesn't seem to have a name, but wrote in the spot for the name, Trump is God, by the way. So this should be not just blasphemous, but also really entertaining. How you doing, Trump is God?
No.
We'll see if Trump gave him power to figure out the microphone situation. Trump is a lot of things, but I wasn't going to put God on the list. That wasn't the thing. Well, apparently, Trump is God might just be a troll because they don't seem to know how to use any of their. They've got 3 microphones. They don't have any of them active. So I guess we'll move on to the next one. Well, it looks like Trump is gone now. We're going to get Joe in the guest box. How you doing, Joe? Some of these people have been waiting in the guest box for a little while, so it can happen that they fall asleep or whatnot. But Joe hasn't been in that long. Joe, can you hear us? Joe.
Hello.
Hello. Well, Joe doesn't have any speakers attached to their. Well, Joe doesn't have any. There we go.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you now. How you doing, Joe?
You can hear me?
Yeah, I can also hear me backfeeding into it. Is there any chance you can turn your speakers down or put some headphones in?
Yeah, I tried putting my AirPods in and it was like, it wouldn't let me talk. Sorry.
Yeah, I see that.
I'm gonna make it closer to my ear.
Let's see if this works. Can you still hear me? I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry.
Right. When you
I can hear you now.
when you turn the volume up, I can hear me too because it feeds back into your microphone. You might have to plug your
How about
earpods back in, friend.
Do you hear me at all?
I can hear you the whole time. I think it's working right now. Don't touch anything.
Okay.
Good to go.
All right.
Okay, so
Okay.
your name is Joe, is that right?
Yeah. I just listen, I joined like a little earlier. I have to go to bed soon. So I just kind of want to make this like a short little thing if we could.
Sure.
But so I think I read that you said on your live stream.
Joe, your connection's breaking up a little bit. Do you have access to Wi-Fi?
Oh gosh, like my phone's like freaking broken. I can't even I don't think we're gonna have a great conversation
I can I can hear
with
you right
this,
now. Just
sorry
try not to
to,
move.
waste everybody's time.
All right. Well, listen, Joe, come back anytime, okay?
All right.
All right, cheers.
All right.
Well, that was unfortunate. Joe sounded like a nice kid.
He did. Hope
All
you're
right.
doing okay, Joe. Hope you're doing okay, Joe.
Ooh, okay. All right. I was going to get Shavana in the guest box, but Shavana, your whatever technology you're using, it's backfeeding the audio directly into your speakers or your microphone super loud. I'm gonna ask you to use your earpiece. It shows that you have an earpiece plugged in, but you didn't select it when you came into the room. Well, so we'll see if this is any better.
Right, hello, is that better?
Let's see. Well, I can hear you, but I can hear me still, which is the problem.
Okay, give me just 2 seconds. I'll see if I
Yeah,
can
can you
fix
put your
that.
headphones on?
Yeah, just give me a minute. But my point was really quick anyway. So I'm a new Christian. I've only been a Christian for 6 months or so, and my logic, 2x can't equal y, so there has to be a y value to begin with in order for existence to be real, right? That's why in the beginning, the
Well,
word was God and the word was with God,
I don't believe that
and
we're
that's my
fake.
logic.
Also, we're not going to be able to have a conversation unless you get your headphones working, because every time I talk, it echoes back into your microphone. So if you can get some headphones, that'd be great.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna work. So I'll just leave you with that point, and then if you want to address that, I'll leave the chat and you can get the next guest.
I don't think there's anything to address. Okay, but thanks for stopping by. Yeah, I agree. We're not fake. We are real. What did you hear? What was he doing, Sarah?
Well, he said, what? Maybe I misheard him. Was he saying 2x plus y? Like you have to have, like, was he talking math? Like you have
He
to have 2x and then y, and I was very confused.
was trying to do some weird mathematical proof for why things exist, but we don't disagree that things exist, do we? I'm pretty sure that we're on the same page with that.
I wasn't. That seemed to be many logical leaps that I did not follow because, yeah, that was not clear at all.
That's a weird one. Anyways, we'll do what we can. All right, guys, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook or Twitch, there's a link in the description. You can click to be a guest. You can also go to tinyurl.com/dzguest, and you can join in the conversation that way. We are streaming to my backup account on TikTok, but we cannot take guests because I'm on a Mac rather than a Windows PC, and I can't run TikTok Studio or take guests because I don't have TikTok Studio. So we're stuck only using the third-party link for tonight. But this weekend I should be back on the normal setup. So Trump is God. Came back again, so we'll see if this is any better.
Hello?
How you doing, Trump?
I'm doing all right.
Awesome. And
can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. Yep. Okay, so Trump, are you at least 18 in? Are you a believer in some kind of God? Of course, he's got 3 red bars. I would expect that for someone who worships Trump. He's on Mega Mobile. Okay, well, apparently he didn't come to chat.
Hey, hooray!
Well, all right, well, guess I'll just send you to the netherworld. Trump is not God, apparently.
I'm shocked. Shocked!
I know. I really expected him to bring a rock-solid argument for why Trump is God. That's what I thought was going to happen. I'm baffled, actually. All right, well, we ran out of guests. Let me grab a couple super chats. Excuse me. Let me grab a couple super chats while we're waiting on another guest to file in. If you want to guest up, just go to tinyurl.com/dzguest and we'll get you in the discussion. And we got a super chat here from Bob. Bob says, "Is or is not Doug a potato?" Sorry, Doug is not a potato. Doug is a rock, the rock of salvation. But he looks like a potato. So I'm sure he'll forgive you for that mistake. And still attacks a bit. Good to see you tonight. Thank you for the super chat. It says 40K subs. equals more views, equals more super chats, equals more reading, equals longer live streams, equals how the hell can you keep this up for 5 hours? Props to Justin for stamina, focus, endurance. We appreciate you. Well, still a text, but I really appreciate that. And I don't know. I mean, it's just in my biology. I don't know if it's ADHD or something else. Some people just are high energy and high strung and can carry on for long periods of time, and I happen to be that person. I don't say that to brag. This is a weird anomaly that I have. My brain is not right, is what I'm suggesting. But the downside of this is I can't sleep. I lay awake at bed and I can't sleep, and I end up like reading books or listening to videos, and then I never actually get any sleep. So there's two sides to that coin. But Adele, thank you for the super chat. Says hubby, user rock hard for Doug. Oh, Adele, wait, Adele, are you saying that your husband is rock hard for Doug? The user that has been up in okay. Rock Hard for Doug is nerding out on the couch next to me with his new Oxford NRSV, furiously highlighting passages as you cook with them. Well, Adele, nothing makes me more excited to hear that your hubby has got himself a copy of the Oxford Annotated Study Bible, hopefully the 5th edition, and is learning to cook. I mean, I'm just I can't be more of a proud father at this point of the little Dougs, the little pebbles out there that are learning to walk through the pages of the Bible and cook. So we've got Luke with us now. Luke, how you doing?
Hello, you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Luke.
Okay.
So Luke, are you at least 18, and are you a believer?
Yeah, I'm 30, and yes, I'm a believer.
Okay. And which God do you believe in?
A Christian.
Sure. What would be the most compelling evidence or argument for the Christian God being real?
I think that pretty stark evidence is that throughout all of our advancements in culture, science, and any other metrics that you can name, for some reason, religious people still have higher metrics in pretty much every standard than non-religious people. So following God,
I agree actually. Like you have higher metrics in like domestic abuse, higher metrics in obesity.
No, that's not. Wait, I don't think that's true. No, the obesity is definitely not true.
Oh yeah, Christians in America.
Right here.
Christians in America are way more likely to be obese than non-Christians.
No, well, practicing Christians, not just identifying.
Oh, right? The no true Scotsman, of course, yeah.
Well, it's not no true Scotsman if the little requirement to be a Christian is something and you don't meet it.
There's no requirement in Christianity to not eat a bunch of food. That's not true.
Oh no, what? That has nothing to do with identifying. Identifying as Christian doesn't make you Christian.
Being overweight doesn't make you not a Christian.
No, I'm saying identifying as Christian doesn't make you Christian.
Okay, so you think everyone who's overweight are fake Christians?
No, that's not what I said. I'm saying that you're
it's crazy how slippery the slope becomes. The minute you start excluding people from your religion, the minute you start excluding people from your religion based on the fact that they don't fit into your metric study of society is wild to me. So I want to make sure we understand what's happened. You came in saying that Christianity is true because like religious people have better outcomes. And then the minute we go to a couple outcomes that aren't better, you want to say, well, they're not really true Christians. Well, who in the world gets to decide who a true Christian is?
Well, actually, I made a claim based on what I said is Christian, and you use your definition of Christian. So if you want to be technical, you're not arguing based on my eternal critique of what a Christian is. So
wait, can we define what a Christian is then, Luke? What character?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on the denomination, but to be a practicing Christian, which in these studies, what they say is a practicing Christian is someone that actively participates in religious service.
Shit. Okay, so that means the obese Christians count.
No, they don't, because they don't actively. Can you give me the study that shows that it's measuring all of the people that actively participate in religious service?
Give me the study that shows obese Christians don't go to church.
That's what? That's a straw man. When did I say that?
It's not a straw man. You're suggesting that the
No,
obese
you made a
Christians
claim.
aren't.
You have to prove your claim. I don't have to disprove your claim.
So let's make sure we're understanding what's happening here. You're suggesting that obese Christians aren't real Christians and that they don't go to church. So what I'm asking you is, why would I believe that obese Christians don't go to church?
Okay, you're lying. Your claim was
I'm not
this
lying.
study. Yeah, you're lying. You said that
No, I'm
this
not.
study. Okay, you are. I never said that. I never said anything about obese Christians weren't Christians. I didn't say that ever. You just lied. Okay, but your claim was that this study.
He's gonna crash
shows
out
that-
hard. This is gonna be a good one.
No, I'm just better than you at this. But okay, your
Not
study
even close.
shows that. All right. Okay. Well, show me the study that shows
The-
that practicing Christians
the
are
under-
less obese.
The unearned
Can I
confidence.
ask a clarifying question here?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, Luke,
Yeah, they're already muting.
Luke, so when you are making these claims about Christians have better outcomes, in all of the studies that you are citing, how do you know that all of those better outcomes exclusively include the Christians that are real, and all of the outcomes that you don't like seem to
What?
somehow also be including Christians that are not real?
Because the study literally defines Christianity as practicing Christians as this way that I'm defining it.
Can you cite me the author and the journal?
Oh, wait, which study did you want? I didn't
Which
have-
one? What outcomes are you referring
Well, you guys,
to
when I
then?
came in
So-
here,
so what
when you
she's
guys
asking
you guys
you
made
for-
a claim and
so-
you couldn't prove your claim.
So what she's asking for, Luke, you don't have to crash out. Just listen to what she's asking for. She's suggesting that she'd like to hear the study that specifically singled out Christians who actually do go to church and are real Christians, not the one about fake Christians. You understand what she's asking?
Yeah, practicing Christians, yes, and I can give you a bunch of studies
Okay.
about practicing Christians,
And-
yes.
and
but,
what-
but don't deflect now.
and what
I
is
want
a-
you to prove your claim
And
first.
what is a practicing Christian?
I already said someone that actively participates in religious service.
How active?
I think it was like a couple times a month. I have to look exactly which study.
Okay, and
Okay,
is
so
it
our definition of a real Christian is someone who goes to church several times a month. That's your
Yeah,
definition.
yes. And your study and your definition of Christian is just someone that checks a box that says they're Christian. Which one do you think is a better definition of Christian? Mine or yours?
Neither.
well? I
Mine's
mean,
better.
Can
It
you
has to be
reference
one
the
has to be better.
studies?
So, yeah. But first, wait. Before you guys deflect, I want this. This guy made a claim
I
that
love-
he has studies
I love
that
how
show
he's
that
already
practicing
feeling
Christians-
so pressured
This
that
guy's
he's already
deflecting
trying.
so
He's
hard.
already trying to burden shift. He's already trying to
No,
burden
what?
shift.
No, you made a claim. You made a claim
So-
for burden shift. You're the
so-
one that made a claim. You
so-
said practicing Christians are more obese in the U.S.
I just stopped talking for 5 seconds and we'll respond to what you want. Okay. So there's lots of studies on not just Christians, but different types of Christians. And it turns out that Christians are more likely to be involved in domestic violence. Christians are more likely to be obese. These are just two that I know off the top of my head. One study was done by Purdue University, and another one you can find on the National Institute of Health. I don't know if any of those are important right now. And I'm going to tell you why none of those things are important. I'm going to tell you why nothing you said is important and why nothing we've said is actually important. It's because none of those things has anything to do with whether or not Christianity is true. And so I'd love to debate sometime. Maybe I'll do a topic that like you're better off to not be a Christian. But that's not the topic. The topic is whether or not your God even exists. So do you want to talk about that? My guess is he's not going to want to. Oh, shoot. Sorry. He's, I apologize. He's muted.
Yeah, they
clicked
have to mute because they can't debate.
No. I was muted because you can't shut up. So we'll try this again. Did you
They
want,
have to mute.
just so you know, Luke, when you're muted, no one can hear you. And right now on the top of your screen, it should show that you're muted. So what I want to do is actually have a conversation. Do you want to have a
No,
conversation,
you don't.
Luke?
If you want to have a conversation,
So he just came to cry. So Luke, I don't know if you know how this works, but like if I unmute you and like ask you a question, just rambling on and complaining is a good guarantee that you're going to get muted again right away. So what I want to do is actually have a conversation about whether or not your
Okay,
God
if you want to have
exists,
a conversation, then why are you muting?
because you don't stop
That's not a
talking.
conversation. If
So,
one person can,
so Luke, the way conversations work is you don't have to talk over the person talking, which is why you're getting muted, by the way. The reason why you're getting muted, and I didn't mute anybody else prior to you. Notice I've been live for like 3 hours. You're the first person that got muted. And the reason why you got muted is because you're not capable of having a conversation. So we'll try this again. I'm going to unmute you, but I promise you, every time you overtalk us, I'll mute you again. Do you understand the problem now?
yeah, I never overtalked you. I'm literally in the middle of a sentence and you mute me.
You
How's that
literally,
overtalking?
you literally have been doing it for the last 5 minutes, which is
No,
why
I'm
you're
in the
doing
middle of
it.
a sentence.
Luke, you're doing it right now.
I'm in the middle of a
Luke,
sentence right now, and you're
Luke,
talking over me.
Luke, I was in the middle of talking and you started talking. You're proving my point for me. Thank you for telling everyone here that you're a liar now. So the question that I asked prior is, do you want to have a conversation about whether or not your God is real?
Yeah, I think that the showing evidence that the outcomes are better is good evidence that
No, it's not.
God's real.
No, it's not.
Okay, well that's your opinion. So why are you just gonna mute me because I'm giving an argument you don't like?
It is my opinion, and it's not an argument for your God being real, because the same thing would be true for Buddhists. The same thing would be true for people who practice all kinds of other religions.
Your take is God is imaginary and.
Luke, you dumb motherfucker, I'm talking right now. I told you to stop over-talking me or I wouldn't have to mute you. This is why you keep getting muted, because you have no impulse control, because you're a Christian, and Christians are taught that they're better than everyone else, and you can just overtalk people who disagree with you, but it doesn't work that way here. So what I'm trying to say is that the so-called benefits that you think Christianity has exists in the other religions. Like religious people overall, not all religions, but religious people overall exhibit particular benefits, say, with the exception of like Islam. Islam doesn't provide the same benefits overall as the other religions. So it's not actually a good argument for Christianity being true. All it would be is an argument for why there's benefits to believing in particular religions and not in any one particular religion.
Well, no, because either way, this gives more benefits than non-religious.
Okay, so what you're saying is you don't have a real argument for why your God is real.
No, I do, but you just want to mute me and every time I give an argument.
So I don't want to mute you. That's my point, Luke. I don't want to mute you whatsoever. I have to mute you in order for me to talk. I don't want to mute you. What I want for you to do is have a conversation with me that doesn't include you getting muted. But I don't think that you're actually capable of doing that. So the point
why do you talk over me when I talk and it's okay?
I'm not talking over you when you talk. I'm talking, and in the middle of my talking, you talk over me, and then I keep talking, and then you think that's me talking over you. But that's not me talking over you. That's me continuing to say what I was already saying while you were rudely over-talking me. So what I was saying before is that just having a religion can increase like feelings of well-being. It could do all kinds of things for you. These are more or less placebo effects, but they're true of other religions. Christianity is not the only religion where people have perceived benefits if they believe in the religion. That doesn't mean that the religion is true. I'm asking for like an actual argument for why like your God exists, not for whether or not you think believing in it provides benefits.
I mean that would be evidence of it having
No,
benefits,
it's not.
and also there's specific benefits that are based on Christianity alone. There actually is. I already know you made a claim
Don't care.
and asked for a source, so you try to deflect because you lied. But
No, I didn't.
If yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
No source that says practicing Christians are more obese. You lied about that.
I didn't say they were more obese.
Yes,
more obese. Yeah, no, Purdue University did the study.
Yeah, you said no practicing. You said practicing Christians. That study doesn't say practicing Christians.
Purdue University did a study.
Yeah, it doesn't say practicing Christian. I looked it up. You lied.
Oh, which one?
The Purdue study. You said it said practicing Christians. It didn't say. It said people that identify as Christians. You're a liar.
Oh, okay. Because all Christians who identify as Christians.
This is why you need religion, because you end up turning into you and lying on the internet, and it's okay.
Imagine being I don't have any morals. A
Yeah,
guy
no,
who
you just
believes
lied on
in
the internet.
a
You just
guy
lied
who
on the internet.
believes that
Okay,
God
just
literally
clarification.
commits genocide
You got caught lying on the
doesn't have
internet.
any morals.
Yeah, and somehow following this God gives you better outcomes, makes you better
It
likelihood to
doesn't.
commit crime. Yes,
It
it does.
doesn't.
What do you mean? You
So
even admitted that it does.
so the name of the study literally says firm believers more likely to be flabby. So do you think that firm believers in Christianity are likely to go to church or not?
That's not what you said. What are you
What's
talking about?
what's a
That's
firm
the name of the
believer?
study.
What's a firm
I don't know.
believer?
You tell me. You're the one that brought up the study.
I'm asking
Tell me
you.
you
I'm
said firm
I
believer. So you're saying, are you making a
I'm
claim?
I'm
Firm believer.
asking you based on what the
How am I
study.
supposed to know what their metrics are?
Okay, just pay attention. What is a firm believer in a religion?
It could mean anything. It's literally subjective. Firm could mean anything. It's a subjective term. Firm. What are you talking
Okay,
about?
so someone
You know
who
this true.
so somebody who's a firm believer in Christianity, are they likely to go to church or not?
You tell me. This is your claim. I don't know. I don't know
Yeah,
what
I
firm
would
means
say
in this
so.
context.
Yeah, I'd say
Well,
that's
can you prove that, or are
that's
you gonna say so? Like,
no,
you
I'm
made
saying
a claim. You
I'm
have to
saying that
prove it.
somebody who's a firm believer in a religion is someone who's going to practice a religion.
Based on whose metric of what firm means?
Based on the definition of firm, meaning strong.
Can you prove it, or are you just speculating?
That's just what words mean.
So you're just speculating that they're only measuring people that go to church regularly. You're speculating that?
No, I didn't say that at all. No, I said people who are firm believers in a religion are likely to practice a religion.
I mean, that's not even true. I don't. Can you prove that? Like, I don't understand why you keep making this assertion without proof.
It's not an assertion. This is how words work.
Yeah.
Words have definitions.
Okay, what's the definition of firm?
I just told you strong. It's okay if you weren't listening the first time.
Could strong religion, could Christians, a denomination say you don't have to go to church?
I don't know a single Christian denomination that encourages you to not go to church.
Yeah, there's plenty of Christian denominations that say that you don't have to go to church at all.
That's not what I said.
It's all about the way you
That's not what I said.
Scripture.
That's not what I said. Luke, listen, I said
Okay,
I don't know.
I know you're straw manning.
Luke, listen to my words and stop being a little coward and trying to overtalk me and make straw men. I said I don't know a single church that encouraged you to not go. That's what I said.
Okay, did I make that argument?
No, you tried to straw man what I just said because you don't actually know.
No, you said that
you don't actually know how to listen. That's your problem. Like you're not actually listening to the words coming out of my mouth. You just want to keep talking. So the fact of the matter is, being a firm believer in a religion essentially would come down to being an actual member of that religion, an actual practicing member of the religion.
No, can you prove that? Like, why do you keep just assuming that?
That's just that's what words mean.
No, that's not what firm believer. Can you prove that's what firm believer means? There's just
yes, firm believer means that you're strongly in that belief. Yes.
Okay, can you prove it means practicing, like they went to church? Can you prove that? Why do you keep assuming that?
I'm not assuming. I'm saying a firm believer in a religion is a person who actually practices a religion. You couldn't classify somebody as being firm in their belief as a Christian.
If I give you a poll and said, can you just...
You couldn't describe somebody as being firm in their Christian faith if they weren't actually a practicing Christian, could you?
If it's a poll that says, are you firm in your belief, and someone says yes, then yes, you could. Why wouldn't you be able to?
Yeah, if you're firm in your belief as a Christian, are you going to do what you're supposed to do as a Christian? Are you going to go to church?
Did Christians say that you have to go to church? So all Christians.
I didn't say anything about having to go to church. I didn't say that at all.
When you go to church, you said it's a necessity requirement.
I didn't say that.
Christian.
I didn't say anything about that.
Can you just answer my question? Can you be a Christian?
This guy is incapable of actually listening.
Can you be a firm Christian and not go to church? Yes or no?
No, I don't think you can call yourself a firm Christian and then not go to church.
Okay, so you don't think there's denominations that say that you can be a firm Christian and not go to church?
Again, I said I don't know of a single denomination that encourages you to not go to church.
Yeah, that's a different argument. I didn't ask you that. Why are you answering a question I didn't ask?
I'm telling you.
That
I'm
say
telling
that
you
can
what
be a
I.
firm Christian
I'm telling you
and
what
not go to
I.
church.
I'm telling you what I said, and you want to reframe it into something else because you don't like what I
No,
said.
no,
You
you're
want
saying
to
that a
could do.
firm Christian necessitates.
You want to continually argue against straw men rather than argue against the words that are actually coming out of my mouth. I would rather you
Hey,
argue.
Justin.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hey, sir.
How's it going? I'm gonna head out.
I don't blame you.
I can't handle this guy. It's unbelievably frustrating to listen to.
Yeah, I don't blame you. He's insufferable.
But I'm gonna go to bed.
All right, Sarah, get some
But thank you
rest.
for having me on.
It's good to see you. Guys, make sure you're following Leaving Faith. She's got a great channel. All right, have a good one.
Good night.
W. Sarah. All right, let me get Luke centered on the screen there. We'll get Luke or centered in the box. All right, back at it. Okay, so Luke, you're gonna waste.
There actually is Protestant.
Luke, I don't know why you think that just endlessly talking is ever going to be like a way to have a conversation. Just pause for 5 seconds. Let's recenter the conversation. There's no point in us wasting the next half hour if all we're going to do is overtalk each other. I mean, it's not going to help you. It's not going to help me. No one's going to actually enjoy the conversation. So back at the bar, you came up here saying that being a Christian provides benefits and that proves that it's true. I disagree. I don't think even if Christianity provided some sort of feelings or benefits or things like that, that it makes the religion or the gods of that religion true. So do you have anything besides that, or is that all you had?
Wait, but how? Like if I don't, it doesn't really make it. It's not a good argument.
It is a good argument, Luke, because
no,
I already
you see, you're.
Luke, I already explained to you twice why this is a bullshit argument, and you weren't listening the first 2 times, just like you're not going to listen to the third time, because other religions have similar benefits. When you poll people from other religions, it turns out that they have roughly similar benefits that people in Christianity claim to have. They live longer, they're happier, they have more kids, they have longer marriages, so on and so forth. No one really cares. These are not benefits that are unique to Christianity. For this argument to make sense, you would have to somehow make it so that it was only true of Christians and it was not true of any other religion. But even if you could do that, which you can't, it still wouldn't make Christianity true. No amount of perceived social benefits makes Christianity true. You need something other than it provides benefits for an argument.
What?
So I'll ask you for the third time, is this the only evidence you have? Keep in mind that. Keep in mind.
Can I respond without you muting me? Like keep you just Gish Gallop or mute. Or
keep in mind that the answer is a yes or a no.
Okay. There's benefits that are Christianity.
Oh, we'll try this again. So Luke, I asked you a yes or no question. Still waiting for the yes or no. I asked you 3 times. My question is a very simple one. Is this the only argument you have, or did you have another argument?
Dude, can you just answer one question, please?
Nope, not until you answer my question. I don't know if you know this, but you're in my live stream. You're in my house. You got to play by my rules. Easy question. All it takes is yes or no. I guarantee if there was a Muslim in the box, they could say yes or no. So easy question. Is this the only argument that you have, yes or no?
Yes, I get it. You have to be in charge because you're losing the debate. I get.
Okay, so you're not capable of answering. I'll give you a little bit of mercy and let you answer one more time. Is this the only argument that you have, yes or no?
Yes, I have other arguments.
Okay, I would love to hear an argument that is based on facts and not on perceived benefits.
What? That's
Luke, when I ask simple yes or no questions, all I need is a yes or no. You don't need to say yes or no and then go trail off into some meta narrative, meta commentary. Nobody gives a shit. No one cares about your meta commentary. So what I want to know is, would you like to discuss an evidence or an argument for your God? There's 1,100 people watching you right now behave like a child. If you don't think no one watches my channel, you can go host your own channel and see who the fuck shows up. So Luke, would you like to discuss an actual evidence or an actual argument for your God other than It provides
So any argument you don't like is not
other than evidence or an argument other than it provides some sort of social benefit. Do you have anything
the whole
besides
point
that?
of religion is social benefit. Like,
No,
what,
it's
what
not.
is even in your argument? Yes, it is. It's literally to God is saying this will give you the best life.
It
Like,
won't.
it's the whole point of the religion. Well, the proof
It won't.
shows that it does. The proof
No, it
shows
doesn't.
it does.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does. I can give you
No, it
all
doesn't.
the studies that prove
No,
it.
it
Gives
doesn't,
you a better
and
life
it doesn't.
than you.
It
Yes,
doesn't matter.
Christians have a better life than you.
It doesn't.
Yes, it does.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they do. I can
No, they
guarantee
don't.
it. You're,
No, they
you're
don't.
like 40 years old and you're on TikTok meeting people. Like, your life sucks.
I'm on YouTube and I have an actual career, and I do this to educate
I'm sure you have a career.
I do this to educate little clowns like you.
No, well then why do you have to mute? Why can't you actually debate?
Because you're a jackass that won't actually engage
no,
in
because
dialogue
I'm
because
you don't like.
because you can't shut up long enough to have a conversation. The reason you get muted, and I'm getting the hint that this happens to you a lot. The reason why you get muted is because you're a piece of shit that can't have an actual conversation. So I want to actually give you the opportunity to lay down an argument for why your God is real, but it sounds like you're not going to actually do that. What it sounds like is that you're going to keep going back to this bad argument because you don't have anything else. So Luke, is this all you have? Do you have an argument other than it provides benefits?
What do you think the point of religion is?
So you actually don't have an argument.
Can you tell me? I do.
Luke,
I do. But this is
Luke. I
don't like the argument.
Luke,
so
I don't
you
care.
Mute. You want to mute. I know.
Luke, no,
I don't like good arguments.
Luke, I'm muting you because you're an insufferable jackass that can't stop talking. You're the reason you're getting muted. You're the only one that's got it muted all fucking night. You're the one. You're the reason. You're the reason you're muted right now. Learn from it. Take this experience and learn from it. This is not how to have an adult conversation. This is how to be an insufferable asshole. So
No, you mute everybody.
So what I want to do is have a conversation about something of substance. I don't care if you think your religion has benefits. I don't care if you think that it provides something for you and you think that I need it and I don't have it. I want to know about whether or not it's true, right? So do you have an argument for whether or not it's actually true?
Yes, it's evidence. I don't understand how you don't
this
understand
is not
evidence.
Luke, it's not evidence.
Gives you better outcomes.
Okay, so you're incapable of having a conversation. All right, Luke, I'm going to give you one last chance, and if you can't engage, then I have to move on to an actual adult. So this is your last chance. This is all you got. I would love for you to be up here and have an actual conversations with me. But what we're not going to do is just overtalk each other for the next half hour. I want to have a conversation on actual substance and evidence. Would you like to have
just mute everybody?
Okay, so you're not ready. All right, well, come back like when you grow a little chest hair and your testicles descend and you're actually capable of having an adult conversation, because clearly you're not capable of doing it. And I can't wait for Luke to start his own debate channel and see how big of a crowd he can draw. I can't wait. Should be fun. I haven't seen a whole lot of apologist debate channels draw a crowd. Oh, well, maybe little boy will figure it out. All right, guys, let me grab some super chats and we'll get on to our next guest. Let's see. We've got another one from Johanna. Thank you so much, Johanna. It says, all religion is primitive. Get with the times. Yeah, I actually agree. Religions are pretty much primitive. And the New Age stuff isn't much better, to be honest. I don't think. Jam and Jay, though, says, Doug is bravest because no one is bolder. Hell yeah. No one's bolder than Doug. Never take Doug for granted, guys. And Mike, thank you so much for the super chat. Says, wait, what? Bonapartist? Like a Napoleon stand? Wait, what? Hold on. Did I miss something about Napoleon? I apologize, Mike. If Napoleon came up in the conversation, I must have missed it. But Evan, thank you for the super chat. It says, in Exodus 3, it says that the angel of the Lord was in the burning bush. Then it switches to being God in the next verse. What's that all about? So this happens a couple times. It happens in Genesis 22 as well. So a lot of scholars believe the reason why this happens is because God, like in the olden days, would interact with humanity, and this become kind of uncomfortable for later people who felt like God was more transcendent and shouldn't be interacting with mankind so much. And so they created this messenger of Yahweh. And you see a lot of times where the Bible would show Yahweh interacting with humanity, especially if it was unfavorable, doing something not so great. They would put the angel of the Lord in there as a buffer, right? And there's a little bit of proof for this in some of the ancient manuscripts. We see in some really ancient manuscripts where it says Yahweh instead of the angel of Yahweh, and then later manuscripts will say the angel of Yahweh. So it seems to be that this was a device. Now, it's also true in the ancient world they had like these divine emissaries where I could put my name, my signet on my messenger, and my messenger can go and act in my behalf. And they would have to be treated as though they were me. Like if I was a king and I sent a divine emissary, or I sent an emissary in my place, they would have to treat them with the same respect that they would have treated me, because my name is in them, right? So there's a little bit of that going on as well. But I don't believe, like Christians are going to go to the angel of the Lord passages and say it was Jesus and try to turn it into some Trinitarian nonsense. I think that betrays most of history and what we know about religions and the ancient world. And Silas says, always new crazy ways to say the same old things. Actually, you're right. They never come up with anything new. And the reason why Luke was so insistent on not actually arguing on the topic is because the topic he was on is like the newest whipping boy of the apologists, because they know they can't prove their God is real. So the only thing they can do is say, well, there's benefits, so what about that? Because they've already lost the game. They know it. They know they've lost the game. They've lost it so bad that they're now going to alternative arguments that are meaningless. But Frederick, thank you for the super chat. Says cherry pickers need to realize secular society influences their moral judgments more than the Bible. Actually, that is the case, because they're picking and choosing the parts from the Bible because of secular society. That's what they've done. And Rock Hard for Doug, good to see you. I hope you're enjoying the NRSV. Says, just realized the moment my eggshell cracked was during a Christian book on geology regarding the Earth age and God creating Earth with an apparent age. Literally, Doug and Sharon Stone deconverted me. Big win for geology. I appreciate you sharing that with me. And Saint in the house, good to see you, Saint, says, I think Zeus is a perfect example of a god that does something. He does a lot of things, actually. Actually, he does a lot of, he he's doing some things, all right. He was a bad boy. And Chris says 3 is a magic number. Schoolhouse Rock, prophecy of Doug. Praise Doug's solidity. That is a good one, guys. If you're my age, you know what Schoolhouse Rock is, and you'll know that was a good reference. I appreciate that. Oh my gosh, sorry I got backed up on some of the super chats, guys. Space Lord says you're using human logic. Sorry, my bad. Where can I find some Jeebus logic? That's what you like. That's how you know that the religion has got problems. They have to invent new forms of logic to make sense of it. And Vic says, you're doing Doug's work. Well, thank you so much, Vic. I appreciate the support and the super chat. I really do. And with that, we're going to get our next guest into the guest box. And we'll keep the show rolling, guys. All right. We've got with us Janine. How you doing, Janine?
I'm doing.
Janine, are you
doing good?
Good to hear. Fantastic. Janine, are you a believer?
Okay, so no, I'm not anymore, and that's thanks to you.
A big W, Janine.
So I basically want your thoughts on. I am 47. I was a Jehovah's Witness for 47 years. There are so many things that didn't make sense to me. I just kind of wanted your thoughts on where you saw, or if you have seen, where they go so wrong, or like where they mistranslate the Bible, or how they even come up. Even though I was one for 47 years, there's things that still doesn't make sense to me, even though I know I don't believe it anymore. It's I want more proof because I'm in the mindset now. I don't believe the Bible, and I don't believe there's a God. But I am looking for the contradictions. I mean, I've seen plenty of them with you. I have like tons of notes. But it's like one of the main things is they come up with the name Jehovah.
Yeah.
How do you explain how they come up with that? I mean, I have heard how they do, but it still doesn't make sense to me because I know it ain't right.
So there's a weird thing that happens in Exodus chapter 6, which is what kind of leads them to believe that the name of Yahweh is Jehovah. And I'll put it on the screen for us real quick. So when Moses talks to Yahweh, he says, I appeared to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as El Shaddai, but by my name, Yahweh, I did not make myself known. Well, Jehovah Witnesses make a big deal out of this because the Hebrew vowel pointing in the text could be read as Jehovah or Yahovah in the original Hebrew, although there's no good reason to believe that that was what they wanted you to read. So in Exodus 6:2, he says, God spoke to Moses and said to him, and then we get the beginning of it, and he says, Ani Yahovah. And it could be pronounced differently, but right here is the Yehovah. And there's a couple things, though. You might ask yourself, if his name is Yahweh, why would it say why would we have Jehovah in the text? Well, first of all, keep in mind that this third letter here, the Vav, is not pronounced like a V. That would be Yahovah. It would be how you pronounce that. So Jehovah is not even there to begin with. But the question would be, why did it say Yehovah instead of Yahweh? And the reason is because they did a number of things in the Masoretic texts when they added the vowels, and sometimes they added vowel pointers to Yahweh so that you would pronounce it Yehovah, similar to Adon. So for Adon means master, right? And so what they were doing was they were trying to keep people from pronouncing the sacred name of Yahweh. The same reason why the Greek Septuagint says Lord instead of Yahweh. Same reason why English Bibles say the Lord instead of Yahweh. So they had creative methods of getting you to read the name Yahweh, but say Adon or Adonai in your brain or with your mouth when you read it. And the way that they did that was they added the vowel pointers for Adonai, even though the actual name was Yahweh. But the problem with that is people came along later, they didn't know what the Masoretic scribes were up to, and they said, oh, well, that's just Jehovah or Yahuwah. And they didn't know why those vowel pointers were there. So the whole idea of the Jehovah Witnesses is flawed because they don't even know how to appropriately interpret the name of God in the book.
Yeah, and then they took out Lord and God in their New World Translation, replaced them all with the name Jehovah.
Right.
Okay, so I do know it's a cult. What are your thoughts on that and proof of it? Because I do know, because like I said, I was in it for 47 years. I guess kind of what I'm looking for is obviously being from there. I'm shunned. And I have tried to show some family members where it's wrong, where they're misled, but it's just not going there. If that makes sense.
Well, so here's kind of where I'm at with that kind of stuff. Like, I never convince my friends and families that their religion is wrong. I don't think family listens to family members on this type of stuff. And sometimes Jesus says things that are good. For example, Jesus said that no prophet is honored in his hometown. which is just a really good kind of folk saying, basically because like the people you grew up with, like they saw you pick your nose as a kid. They knew that like you scratched your butt that one time and didn't wash your hands. Like they know all the worst stuff about you, right? So they don't take you seriously when you're critiquing them on the most important stuff like religion. So it's very difficult to change the opinion of your friends and family members on this type of stuff, which is why I don't even try. Sometimes they'll come to me and ask me questions, and then I can be like, oh, now that you asked, let's go over it, let's dig into it. But outside of them asking me questions, I don't even bother.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's been different things that I have seen, and one time I tried to show my father something, and he's like, "No, I don't want any part of that." I'm like, "But there's proof." And then one last question. I don't know how familiar you are, and I have a feeling you are familiar, but um, have you seen parts of the Bible with JWs that they have actually changed?
Yeah, it's been so long though. So I studied them back in 2008 because I had a friend who was an ex-JW, and I was learning Hebrew at the time. And I was like, well, this would be a really good opportunity to go through the JW translations. And I remember going through it and finding some interesting tidbits, and then I haven't revisited since then. So it's been a long time. But join the Discord and shoot me a message because I have access to all the JW material. I'd love to go through it, and I can send you some translation instances where they were being careless and biased.
I would absolutely love that because, like I said, when I started on this path, I found your channel, and since then I have been taking notes and things that just don't add up in the Bible that contradict each other. But then, of course, when you're talking to someone else, whatever you have to say as far as witnesses go, you just have to have faith. And like,
Yeah, they say that.
how? But like I said, that's actually been a little while because, like I said, me and my boys are shunned because we all decided to leave.
I'm
It didn't make sense to us.
sorry to hear that. I know getting shunned stinks, but they do that.
Yeah, it's hard. But I just wanted your thoughts on it, and I will send you a message because I would greatly appreciate it. But keep up the good work, and thank you so much because you're doing a good thing.
Thank you so much, Janine. I really appreciate you. Have a great one.
You too. Bye.
Let's get some W's for Janine. Deconstructing is hard. Deconstructing is hard. All right, I've got to read off these super chats, guys, and then I've got to get a little bit of sleep. I got to wake up super early tomorrow for work. I'm working 12-hour shifts while I'm out here on the road, so I don't have a lot of free time. That's why I started so late today, but it is what it is. Johannes Brahms says Darth walked in, post-hocked, then got boxed in. Actually, that's kind of what he did. I'll give him credit, though. He was nice enough, right? He was at least nice enough. And it's just Kay, good to see you tonight. Says, love you, Justin, and Leaving Faith. I watched both of you and recently found Planet Peterson. Yes! Follow Planet Peterson, follow Allegedly Ian, follow Dr. Blitz, follow the Agnostic Evangelist, also known as Dave. There's so many great creators in the community. Make sure you're following Cyber Deconstruction. Make sure you're following who else is Joel Reads Bible, Mezzo. And Johanna, thank you again for the super chat. It says, most human beings, I think, instinctively know right from wrong. Nobody needs a confusing, contradictory, and misogynistic Bible, Quran, or Torah to give them some morals. I don't disagree, actually. I think as a society, we tend to know when something's wrong. The question is whether or not we challenge it. Knowing something's wrong and challenging it, I think, are two different levels of behavior. Jeremy says 85% of Americans can't do simple math. I'm glad I'm part of the other 25%. Praise Doug. Sorry if you heard that. Big W. For those who didn't get the joke, just read it. once or twice and do the math on 85 and 25 and see what you come up with. Dynamite joke, Jeremy. And Adele says, can confirm, yes, married to Rock Hard, and yes, he has the 5th edition. I love it. I love that for you guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in and for being a Bible studying power couple. And Space Lord says, I didn't practice Christianity, I mastered it, bruh. I should say that sometime. I like that line. I appreciate that. And Woollight, man, it's good to see you tonight. Thank you for the $10 super chat. It says, how much money to dump Luke? Please. You know what? I should have dumped him sooner. I really wanted, though, to cook him. Like, I was hoping we'd get to a point where we can have a conversation and I can cook him, because I could tell from the start he was an insufferable prick. But he couldn't have a conversation long enough to do that. Crank Old Cuber says the crash out guy with the terrible no true Scotsman argument was just insufferable. Ooh, here Java some money, or here have some money to spite him. Still loving the show. Hail Doug, hail Sharon, hail Rocky, Ave Justin. Well, thank you so much. I really do appreciate that, Cranky Cuber. Thank you for the support and for watching the stream. You're here in like every stream, so I really appreciate that. And also, Absurdist says, but Justin, can you prove that? I know. If I had to bet money, I'd say he's also a pre-supper. I can feel it. Like, he wanted so bad the burden shift. He was doing the pre-sup playbook, but on a different argument. And Terrence, thank you for the $5 super thanks. And LA Silver Surfer, Big W, thank you for the $5 super thanks. I really appreciate that. And we got a couple more super chats left. We're almost to the end. I really do appreciate it, though. Terrence, thank you so much. He says another $5 to make it 10 to drop Luke. He's giving me a headache. I'm sorry. I should have just dropped him. He was a prick. And thank you so much for the $17.99, Kennedy. He says, I got the impression that the vampires in the movie Sinners was Christianity trying to tempt people with long life and reciting Lord's Prayer. I've never watched the movie, but now you're kind of making me want to watch it. You know what I mean? It sounds good, actually. But thank you for the super chat, Kenneth. Good to see you tonight, friend. Joshua P., thank you so much for the super chat. It says, Doug doesn't just question beliefs, he rocks them to the core. Yes, get rocked for Doug. Doug will rock your world, guys. And Mike come in with another super chat, says, I like 5 guests ago, lapsed Catholic dude said he was politically a Bonapartist. That's what I was referring to. Oh, I must have missed that. Maybe I didn't hear him correctly. So he's politically a Bonapartist. Well, shit. That's something. You don't hear that every day, do you? Anyway, thanks for clearing that up, Mike. And Beliefs Bizarre, thank you for the super chat. It says, religion is dangerous. People with faith-based mindsets are incapable of critical thinking, opening the door for grifters who align with their beliefs. Actually, I do agree with you. Religion is dangerous. That's why religion poisons everything, because it's just inherently dangerous. You can't question anything in the book, because then you're questioning God. You know what I mean? And thank you so much, Mr. McDizzle. Thank you for the $9.99. It says, thanks for having these conversations. I've learned so much from watching you. I'll be going home to Missouri next month, and I'm excited to have some conversations with a few uncles. Rock hard for Doug. Well, Mr. McDizzle, Big W, actually, when you're coming to Missouri, I'll be leaving Missouri, so we'll be crossing paths. But thank you so much for the super chat and for the support. We've got my friend Jake in the house tonight. Good to see you, Jake. Make sure you're following Jake's podcast, The Exodus Brothers. And he says, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit walk into the bar. Bartender says, is this 1 tab or 3? They reply, yes. That is an amazing joke. I love that joke, Jake. Thank you so much. I've not heard that one, and I'm sad that I've never heard it yet. That was amazing. Big W. And Master Machetier says, half a beer on me today. Have a beer on me. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Master Machetier. Thanks for being here. Thanks for supporting. And my conscious 616, Hail Nero, says, don't forget Xena, great mind, great person. Oh, of course, Xena, yes, and Thinker, and Bash, and Rhea, and Christina Carroll. Holy shit, there's so many. So many. And the hockey guy says, hey, Justin, do you have a favorite Bible contradiction? Mine is the who bought the field contradiction in Matthew and Acts. Well, I do got a favorite contradiction, and I think people are bored of hearing it. so I got to stop giving it. But I love, and I mean love, the contradiction between 3 and 7 years in 1 Chronicles 21 and 2 Samuel 24. And I'm going to tell you why I love it. Because if you get someone who really knows the Bible well, or has studied apologetics, they think that they know the answer. They think they know how to solve it. But in reality, the solution that's on the internet forum's wrong. I already have the rebuttal for it. I know why it's wrong. And few things make me more happy to give the contradiction than they'll give me confidently why it's not a contradiction, and then me completely eviscerate them and just watch their confidence get shattered. So that's one of the reasons why I like that one, because so many people think that the apologetic on that is strong and it's actually really weak. And It's Disco says, praise Doug. I agree. Praise Doug. Absolutely. Thank you so much. All right, with that, guys, it's almost midnight where I'm at. It's 1 o'clock where you guys are at. I got to wake up early in the morning. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all the chats and the shares and the likes and the support and the super chats. I really appreciate that. We'll be live again Friday night for the long session, and we'll be live again over the weekend as per usual. We'll have the long sessions. So thank you so much for being here. And is anyone live that we can go raid right now? Who's actually live? Give me a second to see who is live. And we're gonna go. We gotta go raid somebody. We can't let this stand. We can't just quit and not give somebody a raid. Let's see. Is Cyber live? He goes late at night. Let's see. Who is live right now? I don't see Cyber on. Mezzo sometimes goes live. No? Oh well. Let's check TikTok real quick. See who's live on TikTok. Who's live on TikTok right now, guys? Mezzo? Oh, Joel and Mezzo are live? Alright, I want to put Joel and Mezzo on the screen, friends. Give me 1 second. Shoot. Let's see. I do Joel reads Bible. There he is. Oh, it doesn't show he's live right now. Huh. What about Mezzo? Is Mezzo live? Yeah, Mezzo is live. All right, we're going to put Mezzo on the screen. Oh my God. Oh my God. Not only is Mezzo live, he's got Crash Out King Minar. He's got Crash Out King Minar on right now, guys. No fucking way. Guys, you guys remember Minar Crash Out? Remember, I'm big, I'm beautiful, I can do handstands. You remember that guy? He's talking to Mezzo right now. All right. Too many clicks. Guys, go raid Mezzo's stream. I'm going to zoom in so you can read this. There we go. Mezzo_WS. Mezzo_WS. That's the handle that we have to go to. I'm going to go watch right now, guys. Go over, raid Mezzo_WS. I'll see you over there in a minute. I can't wait to see the Crash Out. I'm